All right, welcome back, everyone. We are here on May 4th, 2021 for the monthly voting meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Mayor and Commission. We prior had an executive session, and at this time we need to exit that executive session. So could I hear a motion from a commissioner to exit the executive session?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Parker and a second from Commissioner Myers to exit executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we then now, hearing none, are ready to enter our business meeting for the month. And I'll ask Clerk Spratland to call the roll for us, please.
Davenport. Is he absent?
He was in the executive session. I do not see him, but I'm going to do the invite and remind just to make sure that he's got the link.
Parker.
Here.
Blink.
Here.
Wright.
Present.
Benson.
Here.
Poole.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Myers.
Here.
Thornton.
Here.
Hamby.
Here.
Did Davenport come in?
I don't see him yet. I just sent a reminder.
Okay, thank you.
We have a quorum, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we do.
Okay, excellent. All right, first order of business is approval of minutes of Tuesday, April 6th, Thursday, April 15th, and Tuesday, April 20th, and excuse me, a fourth one, Monday, April 26th. Any amendments to the minutes to note?
I might have an amendment. I had some conversation with the attorney about the details regarding the Newton Street project, and I believe we got the language correct there. But then I did hear from the developer about some clarity on the CDO and number 1 of the CDO. It talked about the proposed greenway trail depicted on the site plan. I believe that should state shared use path rather than greenway for clarity.
Commissioner Link, I agree with you. I spoke with the planning director, and he also agreed. So I think that'd be appropriate. Yes. That's what's shown on the plans.
Yes, I'd like to move that it state the proposed shared use path depicted on the site plan rather than the proposed greenway trail depicted on the site plan.
All right. So, Madam Clerk, you have that amendment?
Yes, I'll get with the attorney on it.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I had emailed a few amendments. Is it sufficient to just reference that email, or do I need to spell those out?
I spoke with the clerk about that also, and we believe it be sufficient to reference that amendment, and she will attach it to these minutes as part of this approval.
Okay.
And that's the way she prefer to do it. And also, just to let everyone know, that the key thing is making sure we have a majority vote. The issue about, while it's important, whether we get who made the motions correct, it does not affect the validity of the action. The clerk asked me to emphasize that as well, and I agree with her. But I think it's important to note that. But she would like to do it as part of approval of these minutes as you've offered, Commissioner.
All right. So approval of those minutes of the dates referenced with the amendments noted by Commissioner Link and including the details.
I have an additional question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go right ahead.
In reviewing the minutes, I was not sure if my CDO regarding the zoning ordinance at, I think it's 2150 Lexington Road, if that was, I'm just not sure if that was actually reflected in the minutes. When I look down on page 16 in the PDF, section 3, when it references the conditions of zoning associated with the ordinance, it still refers to the 3 conditions that were proposed by the Planning Commission. And I'm not seeing in the document where the amendment that I made is represented. I just want to make sure that was accurately captured.
That was interconnection between the 2 drives that was done. Yeah. That ordinance was correct with that change.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right.
I will make a motion with,
Second.
with if that's okay, I will make a motion.
All right. Motion for approval of those 4 meeting minutes with the amendments referenced. Motion from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Houle. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. All right, Madam Clerk, do we have any written communications this evening?
No, we have none tonight.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. We, in this era, are handling our planning and zoning items first. So the first item regards a request by Bob Smith of Smith Planning Group at 225 Freeman Drive. Public information staff, is there anyone in the chamber to speak to this item?
Yes.
All right. Anyone here to speak to 225 Freeman Drive? Step right up.
Now, Amy Ritten had signed up for 10 minutes.
Yes, Machine. Good evening. My name is Amy Rittering. I'm with Smith Planning Group, 1022 12 Oaks Place in Watkinsville. Hope 139 is a not-for-profit organization that helps at-risk women and their children. Currently, they are operating out of a single residence and have a growing wait list of women who need their help. The proposal before you tonight is for them to develop a campus for not just these women, but also the community at large. In reviewing the project with planning staff, there wasn't a clear use or description in the ordinance that meets what we are doing on the site. The closest thing was that congregate care home. So, for example, Hope 139 will provide housing, counseling, life skills training, access to education and medical service, as well as transportation, which, again, truly doesn't fit a care home definition. The proposed site is located on Freeman Drive and has been before you a few times. In 2005, People of Hope, which is not affiliated with Hope 139, did rezone the property for the use of a mobile home community. While the site was never built, it was cleared. It does have a detention facility. There is an existing forest main as well as a parking lot. Hope 139 intends to build 12 cottages, a community building, as well as a commons building, intermixed with reforestation areas, walking trails, and community green spaces. The site has been strategically designed such that these community buildings and commons buildings are up along the road frontage, and the cottages are tucked back behind the road, behind these buildings, away from the roadway. The cottages have been designed as a cottage court centered around a shared community green space in order to build and foster a sense of community. This is really vital for this development as these women are leaving, their familiarity with their places, and we really want to build that sense of community in this area. The commons building will contain dormitory style units, shared kitchen and living spaces, as well as meeting and offices. The community building will utilize the topography and be 2 stories, with the Freeman Drive floor containing more office spaces and meeting rooms. The second floor is going to be a multi-purpose gymnasium for the use of the community for sporting, for cookouts, for whatever the community needs. That's essentially what this building is going to be used for. Given the nature of these uses, we are proposing a privacy fence as well as gated access at the entrance to the cottage court. In order to retain the aesthetics of Freeman Drive, we're moving that fence line back behind the buildings, just keeping it in line with the rest of the area. Hope 139 is intended to be built in 2 separate phases. The first phase will be the cottages that will utilize an on-site septic system. The second phase is going to contain the commons and community building, which will require the use of a private lift station in order to connect to the existing force main. As this development is being done not for profit, we are really asking you tonight to allow us to develop it as funding becomes available, with the knowledge and understanding that an additional mayor and commission action will be required for that second phase. At this time, I'd like to allocate the remaining minutes to Shelley Tanner of Hope 139 to discuss the project with you.
Thank you for visiting. Good evening.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the Board of Commissioners, for allowing us to present to you tonight. I'm Shelley Tanner, as she mentioned, the Executive Director of the Hope 139 House. And I'll be honest, tonight my enthusiasm level is different than it normally is when I speak, because we've had a very difficult few weeks with the mom that we currently have in care. And my husband didn't want me to admit that, but I thought it was important for you guys to know that I am fully aware of the challenges that this huge undertaking will bring. It's taken almost 3 years of failures and successes to get in front of you today. So when times are hard in this journey, I pull from the things that led me to this calling. My time spent in a maternity home overseas, my time living in the 12th Ward of New Orleans, working at a community center, being a health educator at Teen Matters, our own difficulties through our son's adoption, and my time spent earning my RN license. All of these things and more shaped the Hope 139 House vision and mission in various ways. Hope 139 House encompasses the mission of providing housing and support for single moms, pregnant or already parenting, who need love, training, support, education, and guidance to be able to raise their children and to keep them out of the foster care system. The cottages are specifically for them and will be supervised and protected. The community center will provide programs of recreation, sports, education, and sometimes meals for those in the surrounding area. So we will also have moms that can work in the community center to develop their job skills. The Commons building, if ever necessary, will provide housing and maternity services for pregnant or parenting minors. So that's how it differs from the cottages. That building would have to adhere to the Georgia Department of Human Services regulations. We hope this entire project will partner with Clarke and surrounding counties to lessen the strain on foster care homes, to encourage health and community, and provide options and unite people. It is a 501c3 organization. We're grateful for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you for visiting with us. Anybody else to speak to Freeman Drive? Right, Attorney Drake, can you read the ordinance on this just so we have that read into the record?
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to amending a planned development for a parcel of land comprising approximately 17.03 acres located at 225 Freeman Drive from RS-25 PD Single Family Residential Plan Development District to RM-1 PD Mixed Density Residential Plan Development District and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney. I appreciate it. And Commissioner Thornton, this is in your district and very close to your home.
Yeah, it's definitely walking distance from my home, but I think I spoke to this at the last month's meeting, and I'm very proud, very honored to have this type of housing in our district. It serves a purpose for people in need. It provides housing, and this nonprofit is willing to open its facilities to the surrounding area, the neighborhood, which there is literally nothing other than the school in our community. So I am going to make a motion that I'll let anybody else want to speak, but yeah, that's I support this and hope everybody else will too.
If you want to go ahead and make a motion, we can go ahead and get that on the floor.
Okay, well then I'll go ahead and make it. I want to make a motion that we accept this ordinance for this project on Freeman Drive.
I second.
All right, motion from Commissioner Thornton and a second from Commissioner Wright. Other input on this project? All right, everybody ready to vote? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries and rezoning request is approved.
Mr. Mayor,
While we have the presenters, could you possibly send me just a paragraph, because I know once this development starts, I'm going to get questions. So is there a simple talking points that you could send me later on?
So yeah, from the two presenters, if you
Yes.
could send, and you could send that either to me and I could forward it, or
Yes,
you can find Commissioner Thornton's email on our website at accgov.com.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we can get that for you. Not a problem.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Appreciate
Mayor,
that.
could you verify that Commissioner Davenport is still absent? This is 9-0 vote.
Commissioner Davenport is present.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Parker is absent.
I am not absent.
She's
okay.
here by audio.
Well, how come, okay, then under participants, how, that tricked me. I apologize.
It's all good.
So,
Yep, it's it's kind of the variety of technology portals, and so one is you can be not here via video, but here via audio. So,
but yet not listed as a participant at the same time?
she's a participant on my screen,
Okay,
and maybe because I'm meeting host.
maybe so. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for clarifying.
So it's a 10-0 vote.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the second item of the evening. This is second of two planning and zoning requests regarding 1698 South Milledge and 115 Gran Ellen. Is there anyone on the chamber to speak to this item?
Mayor, I don't see the applicant here. We do have a couple of interested citizens.
Okay. Gran Ellen and Milledge, step right up. You have 3 minutes to speak.
They apparently are just here to listen.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the attorney to read the ordinance just so we've got that read into the record.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to amending a planned development for two parcels of land comprising approximately 1.504 acres located at 1698 South Milledge Avenue and 115 Gran Ellen Drive in the RM-1 PD Mixed Density Residential Plan Development District and for other purposes.
All right. This is an amendment to an existing plan, and it's in Commissioner Wright's district.
Thank you. And I guess what little clarification I can give on this unique request is that this parcel of land goes with the condominiums on Milledge, but yet instead of the condominium owning this little 1.5 acres, it will be owned and operated as a dog run, so to speak, or a green area with fencing, green space. And I don't want it to be confused with a house next to it on Gran Ellen is for sale. So there could be some confusion that people think that this is a variance for that property, but there's no dwelling on this, and it's to remain a green space, and hopefully some of the invasives will be cleaned up. And I make a motion that we go with the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve with conditions.
I second it.
Right. We've got a motion from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Thornton. Any further input on this item? All right. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Are there any opposed? All right. With no oppositions, motion carries 10-0. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. At this time, we are going to move into our non-zoning agenda items. That's the consent agenda, old business and new business. And we do have a number of members of the public who are signed up to speak. And so what I'm going to do is unmute them one at a time in the order they're listed on the materials that were prepared for me by Public Information. First speaker is going to be Cassidy Lord, and then others want to get lined up. Bruno Jury and Gwyneth Moody follow. So, Cassidy, you should be unmuted now. Are you there? Cassidy, can you hear me? See you on my screen. All right, Cassie, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to move over to Bruno.
Hey,
Bruno, can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Mayor Gertz?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go right ahead. You have 3 minutes, Bruno.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I am in support of the Macon Highway launch, agenda item number 11. And I just wanted to share with you guys, because I've been on the board with UON for many years and been working on the water trails effort. I just wanted to encourage you guys to support it, because it's an important opportunity to connect the community to our North and Middle Oconee Rivers. And this is something that we're very fortunate to have. And I think that if we were not to take advantage of it, from an educational standpoint, from so many other standpoints, we would be remiss. And this opportunity to put a launch site is something that we really need. And we have been working on it for so many years. And I just want to give a shout out to Gwyneth and Diane Wyndham for the hard work that they put into these launch sites. And just to keep you guys oriented, we have other sites on the North Oconee that we are really wanting to move forward with. And I just want to ask for your support as we move forward with these water trails. And I think that it'll be a feather in our cap for the Athens community and for the communities that surround us. So thank you for your time, y'all.
Thank you much, Bruno. Cassidy, I'm going to return to you. I see on my screen. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Sorry, I was in the other room for a second.
No, go right ahead. You have 3 minutes, Cassidy.
Great, thank you. My name is Cassidy Lord. I live at 915 Riverbend Parkway. I'm speaking tonight as the president of the Upper Oconee Watershed Network. We are fully supportive of the canoe kayak launch on the Middle Oconee River at the proposed Macon Highway site. As Bruno mentioned, this is a project that we've been working on for a long time. We believe that the opportunity for public opposition to the location of this ramp has come and gone. The specific location of this ramp was included in voter-approved SPLOST funding and the stakeholder-informed Greenway Master Plan. There was ample opportunity for public input about the project location during both of those processes. Lack of timely participation on behalf of individual residents does not supersede decisions made by the entire Athens-Clarke County voting constituency, nor should late opposition supersede the processes that are in place to accommodate public input. This project is the result of years of work on behalf of countless volunteers and ACC employees. Those years of work have shown that this is the best location for a takeout below Ben Burton Park. Best of all, the landowners are happy to have it. And maybe most importantly, the launch provides access to an undervalued and underutilized public resource, the river. At UON, we know that getting people outside creates a sense of connection and ownership for one's natural environment. People want to get outside now more than ever, and projects like the Greenway, the Hilo Trail, and this water trail help create an engaged and informed citizenry. We encourage you to complete a section of the water trail that the Mayor and Commission approved 7 years ago. Honor the voter-approved SPLOST funding allocated to develop the water trails and create an opportunity to get people on the water. As an avid paddler myself, I ask that you vote to approve the Macon Highway boat launch. On behalf of the Upper Oconee Watershed Network, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Cassidy. All right, I'm going to move on to Gwyneth Moody, and following Gwyneth will be Dick Field. All right, Gwyneth, welcome to the meeting. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Fantastic. Gwyneth, you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. So great to be here. Thank you guys for all of your hard work and understanding this proposal. I know there's been a lot of detail, but Cassidy summed it up very well, as did Bruno. And so really, I think I want to just shed a little bit of light about kind of the bigger picture, because I know you guys will be getting into the weeds a lot with folks. But from my perspective as the Water Trails Director for Georgia River Network, it's a statewide nonprofit. I work with groups all over the state and helping them develop their water trails. One of the main goals for these communities is economic development. They're small places. They really want to bring in tourism. They want to help their community in terms of recreation. They want to provide access to folks that normally don't get access to rivers because it's all owned by private property owners. These minorities and other communities really need a place to go to the river, to get out, to fish, and to have access to this public resource. And so this is a way that I have helped these communities. This just happens to be my hometown, Athens. I grew up here. So it does have a really special place in my heart. And I feel like, it's one of those things where it's not just about economic development, of course, it's about connectivity. We have a greenway that's being put in. The water trail is part of this bigger picture. We need to think about the bigger picture. We also need to think about safety. And of course, that's always been number one. And if you have a put in, you need to have a takeout. And that is our number one issue. It always has been, especially as a river rat myself. I think that we need a place that is going to encourage people to get out at the right location, not to trespass on private property, to have a known place that they can take their family, where they know they can park, that they can go down there and get their boat, and there'll be friendly people there to help them off the river. And that is really what the paddling community is about. A lot of times there's a misconception that the paddlers are the riffraff, but you have to remember the paddlers are those that clean up the river. We're here to educate people to go out there and do the river cleanups, to do the water quality monitoring, to make sure the fish are safe enough to put on your frying pan and serve to your kids. And so don't forget that. These rivers are our rivers. This is our life vein of our community. And I live it and I breathe it and I love it. And so don't forget that element when you're thinking about this decision. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate your support, and be well.
Thank you, Gwyneth. All right. Next is going to be Dick Field, followed by Charles Hinkle. All right, Dick, welcome to the meeting. Good to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good to be here. My comments also address item 11 on your agenda, the Macon Highway Launch Project. I'm Richard Field. I reside at 1255 Cypress Court, Athens, Georgia, 30606. I'm speaking to you as chair of the Administrative Council of the Princeton United Methodist Church. Our church sits on about 11 acres at the intersection of the South Milledge, South Lumpkin Street, and the Macon Highway. Our other boundaries are the Middle Oconee River and the Princeton Mill subdivision. The church began as a Bible study group at the Princeton Mill in the 1830s. And grew into a standalone church on adjacent property. There are still members of the church whose ancestors worked at the mill. So we have been a member of this community for nearly 200 years and have made historic contributions to the community, including many members who have served in local elected and appointed offices during this time. More recently, we provided access for the improvement of the Lumpkin Street-Macon Highway intersection and an easement for the bus stop at that location. We've also erected a little free pantry there to share our resources with our neighbors. This is in addition to our contributions to many local organizations such as Our Daily Bread, Books for Keeps, the Athens Homeless Shelter, food banks, and many others. About 4 years ago, I was contacted by Andrew Saunders, my successor as the ACC Environmental Coordinator, to see if the church would be willing to provide property for a parking lot to accommodate a canoe launch at the Macon Highway Bridge. The launch itself and access to it would be on state right-of-way. This property on our Macon Highway frontage is unusable by us because it is separated from the rest of our property by a steep ravine. Actually, people have already been accessing the river across our property and using our parking lot. We have no objections to this and see this project as a way to formalize and manage that usage. Furthermore, we are amenable to allowing our parking lot to be used as an overflow facility during special events on the river. We have done this in the past for other organizations. In summary, I think this meets a community need, and we are happy to play our part in it. History has shown that even initially unwilling property owners ultimately benefit from the amenities provided by a public facility and often see dramatic increases in property values. While the church does not seek to benefit in this way, we do hope to continue to be recognized as a good citizen of the community. Thank you for supporting this project, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Field. We appreciate you coming down tonight. Next up is going to be Charles Hinkle, followed by Diane Wyndham. And Charles, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. As chair of the Oconee Rivers Greenway Commission, I already sent you a letter regarding the fact that the ORGC fully supports the development of the canoe kayak launch site on the Macon Highway section of the Middle Oconee. As other speakers have reiterated, the proposed construction is in concert with many plans that have already been approved and have already been reviewed publicly, and there is tremendous public and institutional support for a water trail as part of the Greenway system. The river access site at Macon Highway will complete a section of the water trail on the Middle Oconee River that begins with the already existing launch site at Ben Burton Park. Water trail development is part of SPLOST 2020, and that was overwhelmingly supported by Athens-Clarke County voters in 2019. Fulfillment of these plans will contribute to meeting our goals of providing health and recreational benefits to Athens-Clarke County citizens. I'd like to close with a personal note. My wife, Nona, and I are rather newcomers to the Athens-Clarke County community. After spending 37 years in Florida, where I worked as a scientist at Kennedy Space Center and as a professor at the University of Central Florida, and my wife, Nona, taught in the local school system, we've always been very community-oriented and community-minded. We wanted to share with you why we chose this area to live out our retirement. Being avid outdoor folks, we spend a lot of time hiking, bird watching, and kayaking. As soon as we visited the Athens-Clarke County area over 2 years ago, we unequivocally chose this area for our retirement living. The amount of green space and the forward-looking community recognition of the valuable environment we are blessed with here was attractive to us. And I'm sure it's attractive to many people looking at Athens-Clarke County. The opportunities to hike and walk on the Greenway trails and to get out during this awful pandemic was such convenient and beautiful park natural areas was a godsend to us. We look forward to better access to the river system for kayaking and for the safe and well-planned ingress-egress points, such as the one proposed for the SPLOST 2020 project on Macon Highway. Thank you for the opportunity to support this very worthy project.
Thank you for speaking with us tonight. Next up is going to be Diane Wyndham, followed by Alan Jones. Diane, thank you for coming to speak with us tonight.
Good evening. My name is Diane Wyndham. I live at 1050 Coventry Road in Watkinsville. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of the Macon Highway launch site, agenda item 11. I love rivers, and I especially love the Oconee, my home river. As co-chair of the Water Trail Stakeholders Group, the search for an egress point on the Middle Oconee River was initiated before the Ben Burton launch was constructed. This project has been actively in the works for at least 6 years. A paddling section for beginners and families of approximately 5 to 6 miles was sought in the Macon Highway area as a complement to the upriver launch. Numerous sites were identified and evaluated using Q Public Records, GIS mapping, and boots on the ground visits. The optimal site selected was based on topography, willingness of the property owner to engage in discussion, access to major transportation corridors, and high visibility from the highway. Financial support from the Sustainability Office, Greenway Network Commission, and the Riverview Foundation procured an engineering consultation, an appraisal, preliminary legal work addressing recreational easement on the site. Leisure Services Planning Park Planning Department completed concept plans based on all these recommendations. Securing funding was the next step. The 2020 SPLOST Citizens Advisory Committee recommended our proposal, which is approved by this body. We committed to leveraging our SPLOST funds with grants. Georgia Department of Natural Resources is the best source of recreation and trail funding. Consultation with their grant department resulted in the application for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, which you approved in October of last year. LWCF, funded at the federal level and managed by the state, was established in 1965 to conserve and protect vulnerable land. The Congress and President protected it in perpetuity by law just last year. As you can imagine, it's a highly competitive grant. The 50% match will enable our SPLOST funds to grow from $750,000 to approximately $1 million. If we pull the grant due to lack of commission support, it will endanger our working relationship with DNR's grant division. Currently, they are committed to fully fund 2 launch sites on the North Oconee, as well as the launch at College Avenue, utilizing the Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program. Other exceptional resource areas could also suffer the consequences of pulling this grant as they seek funding in the future. My advocacy work for water trails has opened my eyes to recognize that citizens want access to their rivers. They want safe ingress and egress sites to pursue their love of paddling and engage with the natural environment. This project will support those needs. Thank you for your time.
You're muted, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wyndham. Next is going to be Alan Jones, followed by Gary Lawrence. Alan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. My name is Alan Jones. I live off Timothy Road at 195 Xavier Drive, and I'm also speaking on item 11. I run Athens, Georgia Paddlers. It's a group of currently over 825 local area paddlers. That's over 825 local Athens residents that paddle our rivers. Before the pandemic, and soon going forward, I hope, we run tons of all free paddling trips throughout Athens on the Middle and North Oconee rivers. And the Ben Burton Run is very popular, but the takeout is not safe. I fully support the Macon Highway boat ramp, and in speaking with many members of the Athens Paddlers group, I've heard nothing but positives for how much this is really needed. I wanted to spend a moment to talk about the controversy, though. I realized that there are a few members of a neighborhood whose entrance is about a quarter to a half a mile from this site on an entirely different road seem to be concerned, and the main instigator appears to be a local land developer that happens to own another piece of land he's been trying to sell the county at too high a price to use as a boat ramp. So his arguments seem a little biased. He seems to be concerned, from what I've heard, about, well, everything you can throw into the NIMBY pot. Noise, crime, condoms, needles, students, people of color hanging out playing loud music, homeless people, people macheting their way a quarter of a mile down a hill, across a stream, up another hill, through a wasteland of kudzu and brush to steal his big screen TV, change, and anything else that he can throw at this. The residents this guy has stirred up can't really even see this proposed launch from their upper story windows with a telescope. It's not particularly close to their lands. And I, for one, am just kind of tired of NIMBYs keeping Athens car-centric and lacking in outdoor recreation. The impact of this project to any traffic or nearby neighborhood seems like it will be statistically unnoticeable. There's no eminent domain or property seizure going on. It's like 8 to 9 parking spots right by a highway that will mostly be used on the weekend. As for Timothy Road, the street that will be most affected, Timothy Forward has determined it's just not going to be enough cars on Timothy to justify any concern, and we're really excited to have the ramp. So please support this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking with us, Alan. All right. Next up is going to be Gary Lawrence, followed by Rick Dunn.
Okay.
Gary, thank you for coming with us tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I am Gary Lawrence, and Princeton United Methodist Church. and I'm here in support of the boat takeout. We've always been a part, as Dick Fields was saying, a part of the community and trying our best to serve the community. And we just are excited about this being an opportunity for us to be a part of outdoor activity. We've got a real active Boy Scout troop 1111 at Princeton. I know they'll love it. They'll be able to use it. We are the property that this ramp will be adjacent to, and we're more than willing to provide property for the parking area, plus our church parking is overflow. Never had a problem with that. We love it when people use our facilities in any way. And I think this will be an asset to traffic. It will not affect Lumpkin Highway or Lumpkin Street, I can't imagine, but on Macon Highway, sometimes people do trespass and park on the other side of the bridge just off. And this will provide a place for people to park, to get their kayaks and canoes out, to do all these things. I grew up in the woods and the lakes and the rivers of Central Florida. Our family, we were always outside. I'm really excited what this takeout can be for the community of, bringing new people in, especially young people, but even older people who live in a city but don't see all the nature that you can see from a boat and can see as you come down the river. So I'm so excited to be a part of this. It's just a continuation of the way we feel like we are a part of the community. I would, love to offer access, and we've even talked some about providing tables on the church property or something like that for picnics and whatnot. And I've heard all of the problems that the previous speaker spoke about, the complaints, but we don't see that already, and we have a lot of foot traffic on and around our property, so we're all for it. And I can't see that it would be any detriment to the community. The other thing is, I do appreciate the commission listening to all of us, but especially the people who've added their comments about canoeing and kayaking. I have not been on the Middle Oconee, so throw the preacher a bone. Somebody take me out on the river, please. I would appreciate it. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. All right. Next will be Rick Dunn, followed by Angela Hansen. Rick, good evening. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not here to talk about the river. I'm here to talk about the possibility of renaming two of our leisure service facilities. And before I get into what I want to say, I want to, first of all, thank you all for this opportunity. I know in the last few months you looked at how facilities are renamed, and you made some significant changes, but you decided to grandfather us in because our petition was made 2 years ago. So I want to thank you for that. But in particular, I want to talk about renaming the East Athens Community Center after Aaron Hurd, who was former director there, and the gymnasium inside of Thomas Inlay Park after Mr. Willie Hull. Don't want to change anything about lay people. Not even representatives of the government really cared too much. But because these two gentlemen had grown up in public housing, had made something out of their lives, they took advantage of the facilities that they had, and they began to incorporate programs or sort programs that would help youth not come to the facilities to escape, get caught up in their childhood activities to escape the life as they knew as a child. But they came up with programs that were going to help kids find a path out of poverty and to become productive citizens. This city is full of thousands and thousands and thousands of young people, male and female, black and white, who, because of their relationship with Mr. Hull or Mr. Hurd are now doctors, they're lawyers, they're educators, they're law enforcement. You got two people who are judges right now who were under these men's tutelage. You got a high school principal who was touched by these men. These guys just molded and shaped thousands and thousands of young people in our community. But they even did more than that. Mr. Hurd was responsible for help bringing healthcare services to the East Athens community back when there was no health department on the east side of town. He provided the third floor of the East Athens Center for public health to come in and provide reproductive health services there. And finally, Mr. Hall, even though this had little to do with recreation, but I think it causes this relationship with kids through recreation. If you all remember when Everett White was slain by over there on the east side, we had a march. And March started on the east side of town and it was supposed to end over at Lay Park where there would be a rally. And you know that the anger of the youth at that time was very similar to what the anger of the youth is today with George Floyd. As we marched towards Lay Park, we got to Hall and Doherty, and the march was supposed to turn right to go to Lay Park. Instead, the marchers turned left and were headed towards downtown Athens. And Willie Hall sprinted to the front of the march and screamed and shouted and turned those people around. I hate to think what would have happened to downtown Athens if Willie Hall had not been there and had the relationships that he did with those young people and was able to get them to turn around. This community is much better than it could have been had it not been for those gentlemen. I mean, I hate to think of how we would be, but I think it would be a great honor to name this. When this idea came to me actually on an MLK Day celebration, and here we were celebrating Dr. King, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to celebrate in Athens some living heroes, people that our kids could touch and talk to. And so I asked you to pass this. I think it's going to be the easiest yes that you ever had. And I ask you to support this these name changes. And again, we're not changing Lay Park. We're just changing the name of the gymnasium. And we're changing the name of the entire facility out of East Athens under for Mr. Hurd.
Thank you so much for bringing this forward, Rick. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is going to be Angela Hansen, followed by Claude Lett. Angela, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks. I don't know if I'm able to share my screen as well. I actually have a bunch of images of the middle and north Oconee Rivers.
No, you're not able to share screen. I apologize. It's audio only.
That's okay. So my name is Angie Hansen. Thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to chat. I wanted to talk in support of, again, the Macon Highway launch number 11 that we've heard from a number of people about. My perspective is just personal experience, what we would be making accessible to other people on the river. I don't know how many of you have kayaked on these waters, or kayaked in general, or on these waters in particular. It's very beautiful, peaceful, and interesting seeing the town from a different angle. I know that, it's definitely good for physical activity. You can get in a workout, go upstream, or if you relax and float, sometimes I wear a Fitbit on the water, and I found my heart rate on the water gets lower than any other time except when I'm asleep. It's deeply peaceful. And I love the idea that it's actually quantifiable, just what an impact it can have on your mental health as you are watching. Most of the time, not every time, but you'll see a huge great blue heron, very majestic, flying overhead. Occasionally you'll see deer, otters. There's a couple of otters if you're lucky enough to spot those, or happen to hear a beaver slap. I've only heard that once. It's a very unique sound. And I love that it's super engaging and interesting. And I find that the experiences you have on the water, whether it's a low heart rate, the beautiful greenery, the beaver sounds, or the different wildlife, develops an appreciation of nature and the river itself. And I think that accounts for some of the culture among kayakers that Gwyneth mentioned earlier, of caring for the river. And cleanups actually become an integral part of the culture. I don't know how often people spend their hobbies doing cleanups and traveling to a neighborhood community just for the sake of picking up trash, but it actually becomes part of the kayaking culture. And I think part of that is after you've done it once or twice, you realize that a day doing a river cleanup feels more like a day spent on the river than a day picking up trash. And in fact, even on non-cleanup days, most kayakers I know will bring a bag with them and pick up trash as they go, or depending on their boat, they'll pick up a spare tire or two and haul it out of the river at the end of the trip. And it's very much a part of the culture. So it's good for the kayakers and also good for the environment and the people, who may live on the side or just the town itself. So having people caring both at an emotional level and active caretaking of the river. I also think that it's worth noting that, it's called a blue trail, and the trail itself exists. The river is there. It does not have to be created. All that we need is an exit. Currently, you park at the side of a road. It's 50 miles an hour. You just park far enough to the side so you don't, no one will hit you or hit your car. And then to take the exit, you drag your boat over the rocks and the rivers and through the weeds, and hopefully can make it that way. So it already exists, and we just need an exit for it. So thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, 20 more seconds. On Facebook, I mentioned it. I got more than 100 replies, nearly all of them positive, only one negative person who was like, I don't like boating, which is fine. But more than 100 different people replied saying they were fully in supportive. 40% of them were in a parenting group. So I do think there's a huge interest, especially post-pandemic, now that everyone has bought outdoor bicycles and kayaks. So thank you so much for your time. I'll wrap up and just ask that you please do vote in favor so we can make this experience accessible to more people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to speak to us tonight. Next is going to be Claude Lett, followed by Fred Smith. Claude, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. My name is Claude Lett, 172 Tawnyberry Drive. I have a couple of perspectives that I think you haven't heard yet that I'd like to talk to you about. So I fully support the Macon Highway Boat Ramp Project, agenda item number 11. Thank you to everyone who is involved. It would provide access to the Oconee River for canoes and kayaks, completing the vision of a blue trail in Ben Burton Park. People will be able to launch and land canoes and kayaks from the Oconee River without damaging the riverbank at Macon Highway Bridge Takeout. The absolutely amazing experience of rafting down the river will be able to safely be experienced by novice kayakers, children, people with a disability, and others who cannot safely exit the water under the current hazardous conditions. The structure is located. The structure is at a location that canoeists and kayakers have used for years to enter and leave the river, and frequent use has been damaging the riverbank. As I'm certain you are aware from all the great work I've seen put into pedestrian projects, you build sidewalks where people walk. You build bike lanes where people bike, and likewise, you should build this ramp because this is where people for years have entered and left the river. When deciding where to build infrastructure that serves citizens, it makes sense to build it where people already are in need of it. The project reduces bank damage and erosion greatly, improves safety, and gives equitable access to absolutely the most amazing experience boating down the river. This experience has not been safely available to novice kayakers, children, people with a disability, and others who cannot safely exit the water from the current hazardous conditions. You have a rocky, slippery climb to a roadside with cars a couple feet away that are going likely around 50 miles per hour. This is not something a novice kayaker or a person with a disability or a person with children can safely do. This is the proper place for this project. People are already there and have been there for decades. This project makes the area safer. Please finish the Blue Trail vision. Please build this common sense infrastructure. Please protect our riverbanks. Please improve this equity, and please improve safety. I greatly appreciate your time and the work of the people who have been working on this project. Thank you.
Claude, thanks for speaking with us tonight. All right, next up is going to be Fred Smith, followed by Michael McClendon. Fred, thanks for joining us this evening.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of item 13, the renaming of the gym at Palm Lake after Mr. Hull, and the East Athens Community Center after Mr. Hurd. I'm Fred Smith at 425 Rivermont Road, and he ain't almost not comment about that I live on the river, and so I was taken by all those comments. Of course, as a small child, I grew up on the river in Oconee County. So, but I'm here to talk about the renaming of those facilities in support of that, and talk about, of course, the long time non-inclusion of African American being recognized and honored in this way. And again, I can't think of two individuals more worthy than Bird and Mr. Hull. Just like Rick, I had the same experience with both of those gentlemen. They're a little older than me, but I consider both of them my mentors. In fact, I had been doing college days in the summer, actually worked over there at the Community Center under Mr. Hurd. And Rick made reference to the fact both of them grew up in housing, and I grew up in public housing in Paldo, and the Hulls grew up. So again, and they've been role models, me and for so many youngsters and others in this community. So I just have to take time to speak in support of that. And again, and take note to the fact, yes, there's been a neglect in terms of naming facilities and streets and monuments in Athens after African Americans, although we've been here in Athens since the start of Clarke County in 1801, but again, marginalized for so many years. So I believe that things are beginning to change some. So I'm optimistic that there will be a positive vote tonight and affirmative vote in support of this, and that was a great signal to the community that things are changing. And thank you very much for allowing me to add my few comments to my meeting.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. All right. Next is going to be Michael McClendon, followed by Gilbert Milner. And that'll be the last of the agenda item input. And then following the agenda items, there are two commenters to speak to items not on the agenda tonight. So, Michael, thanks for joining us tonight.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Michael McClendon, and I reside at 201-9 Hamilton Road in the Princeton Mill community. We've heard a lot of comments tonight from advocates, and I think you would find that many in our community would agree with what you're talking about. We like to see people being able to use the river and enjoy that for canoeing and kayaking. That's not the issue at hand tonight. We're the only community on the river contiguous to this proposed location, in one case about 150 feet away from the property line. And we're intimately familiar with the practical issues. And that's what we want to talk about tonight, the practical issues that in our view make this location the wrong place for this project. It's not that we're against a boat ramp, it's just this is the wrong location. We forwarded two separate letters to the commission regarding the deficiencies in this proposal, and I'd like to briefly summarize four specific issues. First, our homeowners are not the least bit confused about this project, as Leisure Services has stated several occasions. We've read the 118-page pre-application, submitted to DNR, the Greenway plan, and all other documents. We also well comprehend what has been stated in these plans and their logical consequences for our property rights and quality of life. Second, in regard to what you're discussing tonight, what is being presented is a concept for you to vote on, but it is not really a concept. It is a concrete step to implement elements of the Greenway plan. If it was a concept, there would be no need to acquire property, have a written agreement with Princeton Methodist Church, earmark SPLOST funding, and seek a federal grant. Those are not things you need for a concept. Make no mistake, this is not a concept you're being asked to vote on tonight, but rather a plan where ultimately Athens-Clarke County would take private property that owners along the riverbank will not sell. We're currently engaged in due diligence activities to inform decisions about possible legal considerations in that regard. Third, the project as presented seems to us to be somewhat a mass of contradictions. There's no data on current usage of the boat ramp at Ben Burton Park or the estimated uses at the proposed site. The plan calls for a 9-car parking lot, but on the other hand, ACC's own documents talk about growing demand for such a ramp. We've heard that tonight also. They acknowledge commercial float firms will use it, and the boaters will frequently use trailers, all of which make the size of a 9-car parking lot and associated traffic a major risk area. The DNR pre-application states that Athens-Clarke County has spent 5 years searching for a suitable site. Someone tonight suggested it was maybe 6 years, but no one has provided us or commissioners who've asked about it documentation and analysis or any evidence about this search that has gone on for 6 years. There's no traffic impact analysis of this project. The traffic on the Macon Highway increased 40%, and the traffic on South Lumpkin Street increased 20% from 2010 to 2019. And there's no current or projected traffic data or consideration of the impact of the Glenview 120 home development on existing traffic. Even if Leisure Services drops their plans to eliminate the slip lane on the Macon Highway, that is not a solution to the fundamental traffic and safety issues, which would impact the community from this project, as well as impact access onto that parking lot. Finally, this is not a good investment for taxpayers who will pay about $50,000 to $55,000 a slot for a 9-car parking lot, which looks like it will be undersized. And we don't know about the total cost of this project, because if you look at what has been stated in various plans, to create a new park is planned and established a set of paved walking and bike trails along the riverbank to act as a hub, the total cost is unknown. Approving this project and kicking the issues down the road does not deal with the root cause issues that make this project impractical at this location. If a new park is the goal, which ACC states, we believe that you should mount a serious effort to acquire property suitable for access with growth, green space, and amenities.
Thank you, Mr. McClendon. We really appreciate you coming tonight. All right, we have one agenda item. Speaker left, Gilbert Milner. All right, Mr. Milner, can you hear us?
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm not going to go over the same thing that Mike just went over with you. Those are some of my concerns, too. My property is at 256 Hamilton Road, and it backs up to and actually comes over on the other side of the Princeton Methodist Church property. I gave them a good bit of property over there when they were putting in their driveway and parking lot and that kind of thing. And we've been good neighbors, and I've had a lot of interaction with the church members over the years, and very good. My biggest concern about this is what goes along with it's going to be a magnet for, I think, the student population, which I was one at one time. It's been a long time ago, but I can still remember. But boating and the river have a tendency among college-age students and so forth to include alcohol in the acquisition and consumption of it during boating outings. And I'm just concerned that maybe that we probably need to think in terms of how this thing is going to be policed and make sure that it doesn't turn into something that was never intended for it to be. And that is a hangout for people after hours or whatever the case may be, but where alcohol is involved and you get the loud music and that kind of thing on into the night. It happened, I think, over at Ben Burton in the past, and they had to police that also. But just to make sure that everybody understands, it's not that I object to this, it's that I'm concerned about what it might bring, and I want some assurances from the church members and from Athens-Clarke County that they're going to police this thing, because it needs to be policed. Anything like this, when it's open to the general public at large, you don't get the same groups as you would have when you have Title Georgia people and that kind. I've dealt with them before when I was involved with the Barnett Shoals Dam. Gave them portage around it, and they were very orderly, and it's just, it's a concern to me that this could evolve into something that was never intended for it to happen, and I want some assurances from the city and also the church group to make sure that it's monitored and order is kept. I don't want it open all night long, I hope, so that it would be a hangout spot, but if I can just get some assurances that they are going to monitor this, the city's going to monitor it, it would make me feel more comfortable about it. So if anybody wants to answer to that would be my only concerns and objections to it.
Thank you, Mr. Milner. We appreciate it. All right. Commissioners and members of the public, we are moving forward to our consent agenda. Consent items are generally approved under a single vote. But before we get to those items, I would like to ask, is there any commissioner who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Commissioner Denson.
Yes, item number 7, please, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other items you would like to see removed from the consent agenda? All right. Attorney Drake, I believe there's an ordinance associated with item 3.
Sorry, I have my hand raised, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Houle.
It's item number. Sorry, it's the one about the pump station.
That's item 5.
Item 5, yes.
Okay.
Trying to scroll down to the appropriate part of my agenda here.
All right. So that leaves us with items 3, 4, and 6 on the consent agenda. Attorney Drake, can you read the ordinance for 3 for us?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to always stop control at the intersection of 1st Street and 3rd Street and for other purposes.
All right. Thank you for that. Entertain a motion for approval of 3, 4, and 6.
So moved.
I second.
All right. I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport and a second from Commissioner Myers. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. Moving forward then onto old business. Commissioner Houle, yes, for 5 to be removed. Go right ahead.
Yeah, we got some information about how solar could be incorporated into this, and I guess I just had a couple questions about if we're able to ensure that solar is incorporated moving forward, and also, who would end up paying for that installation.
And if I might, Mayor,
go right ahead.
Commissioner Houle, I think that we have 2 pump stations on the agenda tonight, and I think that would apply to the number 9, agenda item number 9. The whole road is just a private pump station and force main to attach to our system. That will all remain the property of the private owner, and it's a small, very small pump station, a pump.
Dang it, I did mess up my agenda items. I'm sorry. I should have left that on consent.
It's all right. But
no problem.
If you would like, you could make a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Seconded.
All right. Motion for approval number 5, second from Commissioner Myers. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. Item 7, Commissioner Denson, you asked for removal. I know you've got a commission to find option. You can go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I think that, this whole body and people in the community heard about some of the things going on with this playscape. And first and foremost, I am extremely appreciative of the Sandy Creek Nature Center Incorporated for building just such a cool way for children and families to interact with nature that's going to be in the back of, that is now open on the back of the Nature Center. and I greatly appreciate it. And it's going to be a fantastic addition to the county and to our leisure services holdings. But it did bring up some oversights or some blind spots, honestly, that I think that we've had when it comes to the needs of disabled children being able to actually be able to use our playscapes and our playgrounds, and that we need to be going further so that we're not just being ADA compliant, but ADA inclusive. And going further so that we really generally are making sure that that these play spaces are welcome to all children and families. And there's obvious improvements that we could be doing. And I think that first and foremost, that starts with us really listening and making sure that parents and families and caregivers and people in the disabled community have a seat at the table when we're talking about not only our leisure service spaces, but honestly, county facilities in general. And because of that, I am making a motion for a CDO in which we will accept the donation of the completed nature playscape as submitted in the recommendation, but also do 3 more things. The first one being directing the manager to have staff, including but not limited to the ACC inclusion officer and the ADA program specialists, to meet with concerned residents and caretakers and review the donated playscape for potential improvements for inclusivity in regards to disabled and differently abled individuals. Staff shall return in the future with any recommendations and associated costs to the commission for further consideration. The next item is request the mayor to assign the topic of inclusive facilities into one of the 2 standing committees. Items to consider shall include but not be limited to what standards beyond compliance leisure services staff should pursue, strategy around base level of inclusivity for all leisure services facilities, and or specific facilities very focused on inclusivity in Athens-Clarke County. And then the last item is directing the manager to have the ACC Inclusion Office staff reestablish the ACC Commission on People with Disabilities that was created by ordinance back in the late 90s. This should include making ordinance revision recommendations to ensure that this commission is structured and operating in a viable and effective manner, so that this that commission is moving forward and does not fall into the lapse that we have seen lately. So, I've sent out this CDO to the entire commission and the clerk and the mayor. And so I make a motion to pass the CDO.
I'll second.
Any further input? Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I appreciate this of Commissioner Denson taking the suggestions that I think Manager Williams put out and developing them further into this CDO, and that we need to go beyond the basic ADA appliance. I'm really thankful for the people who've reached out to us to point that out. I have a niece with disabilities, and I know that the challenges that she has had that have been helped out through the services in their community up in Portland, Maine, have been really, life-changing for her and for her family. And I want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can. Also, I really love the idea of reconvening the Commission on People with Disabilities. As a former chair of Athens in Motion, I was aware and did nothing about it during my tenure there. During the year I was there, that we did not have representation and input from the people with disabilities community, which I think was something we needed to have in terms of looking at sidewalks and bicycle and other structures. So I'd be really happy to see this commission reconvened as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other input? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the members of the public who reached out to us and compelled us to do better. And I really appreciate the work Commissioner Denson and staff did to put this together and respond. And I hope this will be a meaningful step in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to supporting this also.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright.
I'm glad that we're talking about disabilities. I think that this is a meaningful conversation. This kind of conversation I wish we had at retreats. to where we're not taking something from the consent agenda and snowballing it with three different additional items that are very large directives for the manager, staff. I'm glad that, Commissioner Denson, I'm glad that we got to talk. I'm glad you took out the timeline for the clerk to have a new committee in the BACs by May 28th. I think we need to be mindful of our staff and the workload that they have. I don't want this to be rushed, so I'm glad that the rush of what was talked about on Friday has slowed down so that we can do this in a meaningful way. A parent of a person with disabilities, this is a meaningful thing. I'm voting against it. It's very hard because the process, I think, the agenda item is accepting a donation from a playscape. So I hope that we can continue to talk about this topic in a meaningful way in retreats to move things forward. And I look forward to seeing the work that gets done, but I really don't appreciate the rush that's happening with some of our topics that get snowballed. That's all I have to say about that. And that's my reason for voting against it. And I realize it won't change the outcome of it, but I look forward to the work that's going to be done in supporting that.
Thanks, Commissioner Wright. Any further input?
Just really quickly, I'd also like to thank the advocates that brought this to our attention. We do have blind spots, and it is our responsibility to be responsive to the members of our community who we are failing to serve. And I'm very, very appreciative of those who spoke out, for staff for being responsive to those concerns, and to Commissioner Denson for taking the time to meet those challenges in a manner befitting of, you know, the dignity that these folks deserve and feel underserved in with regards to our current facilities. And so I'm looking forward to moving forward expeditiously and ensuring that, you know, in future considerations around leisure services, as well as other accommodations we offer in our community, that everyone is included, every Athenian. So thank you, Commissioner Denson, and thank you, staff, for making sure we can do that.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Thornton.
I'm going to support this because of because it's right. But I do agree with Commissioner Wright, no pun intended, that if we're going to listen, if this is going to be our platform and our standard on how we do business, we should do this for everybody and everything. We kind of pick and choose who we listen to. The disabled community needs our attention, but some of these other voices we shut down on. Now, if we can find a place, I know we got to behave. I know that's what we're supposed to be doing, but I hope that we will take those retreats and the conversations we have amongst ourselves to put stuff out there that all of us can embrace because we get the same information. I did talk to Commissioner Denson about another issue that is almost in the same vein, but I'm going to support this because it's the right thing to do, but the process that we're doing things and we're not listening to everybody. And we need to talk about that. And we need to be real.
Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. For a vote, I'll just note that I think what we always find in public service is that we learn new things all the time. And sometimes we even think we know what we're doing, and then we discover there's some things that we've left undone. So I do appreciate members of the public reaching out to us and reaching out to staff members. I do also want to thank staff members for being responsive and for recognizing that that having facilities that serve the entirety of the community is important, and for acknowledging that. I think many of you know, in my prior professional life, I worked with students, and a specific part of my last role was coordinating special education services. And so understanding that we are always innovating and always finding new ways to serve members of the public who are differently abled, in the same way that we are learning new ways to serve those who are aging, learning to new ways to serve those who've been historically under-supported and under-resourced. is part of the job that I appreciate that everybody here takes seriously. I think Commissioner Denson has made a motion. I apologize. Was Commissioner Parker the second?
Yes.
All right. Commissioner Denson has made the motion. Commissioner Parker was the second. Clerk Spratlin, if you could call roll, please.
Denson,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Link,
Yes.
Wright.
No.
9 yes, 1 no.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. We are moving on now to old business. Item number 8 regards parking prohibition on Falling Shoals Drive. And I know there's going to be a motion to hold, but Attorney Drake, if you could just read the ordinance for us to begin with, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to circle back to Attorney Drake in just a minute. I know this in Commissioner Davenport's district, and Commissioner Davenport, I know you'd had some conversations with neighbors.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just the optics of transparency and safety. Safety, of course, is paramount, but I believe that some of the residents would just like to speak with traffic engineering. And I spoke with the HOA there, and they would just like to speak with traffic engineering and just discuss the report. They have already set up a place outside the pool area to meet. I'm just waiting to hear back from staff on a time. But I'd like to place on hold for 30 days. And it may be placed on, I'd like to place it on hold till our next voting session.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Attorney Drake, if you just read the ordinance so that it's clear to the public.
An ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to parking restrictions on Falling Shoals Drive and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney. All right, there's a motion to hold for one cycle. Is there a second?
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport, second from Commissioner Houle. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, this item is held until our June voting meeting. All right, next item, number 9, is the Old Jefferson Road Sanitary Sewer Pump Station. This is a concept level approval. All right, any commissioner like to comment or make a motion? Commissioner Myers.
Yes, I'd like us to consider tabling this for a month based on some of the information that we got from Manager Williams yesterday concerning the, so that we can sort of explore the idea of using solar on this. The deposit cost here is, which is really the replacement cost, and the operating cost is $250,000 that we'll be getting from the developer. But there is an opportunity to explore getting solar on there for $63,000. And then after the 20 years, I did follow up with the Manager Williams today that after 20 years, we are completely responsible for all of the future costs. So if there's a way to incorporate solar, which I will thank Commissioner Link for asking about, I think that would be interesting to explore whether or not this is something we can get the developer to participate in or not. I just have like a little more time to explore that option. So I move to table the item for a month.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Myers, second from Commissioner Houle. Manager Williams.
Yes, thank you. Just a little more information there about the process. We did get some information on the cost of this, and if it was a grid system or solar with a large battery off grid, then it's going to be about $100,000. So this is a concept approval. If this is something that you would like to see, whenever you do it, if it's tonight or if it's another night, this would be the time to let the developer know your expectations, as opposed to if we end up coming back to you with this design, with a more refined design, and you were to totally change that in the future, this is different from most of our project delivery processes in that, we usually come to you with a concept and then we do more design and we come back with preliminary design, and we can still follow that here, but what we have is a private entity that's going to build it. And so I only say that we need to be very clear about your expectations. I would tell you that the solar, I think it was suggested perhaps by the developer that the money could come from perhaps the deposit. But as we've shown you, that deposit is really for energy and maintenance and replacement cost based on 20 years. There may be some savings on the power side, which was, I think, $34,500 of the full 250. So you may have some consideration there, but I don't think that if you were to ask the developer to build the solar, it should come out of the deposit, because the ordinance is pretty clear about what that should go towards. You might consider, I think solar arrays generally have about a 25-year life cycle, not charging them extra for the replacement of the solar in the future. That would be up to y'all. But whether you do it tonight or at the next meeting after it being tabled, I think if you expect that the developer will provide solar at their expense, you should let them know early in the process.
I really was just looking for more understanding of the process and what our options are, and was hoping that you and the sustainability office or whoever else is involved could present us with some information that we could consider as we proceed. I just really wanted more information on that. That's why I'm asking to table it for a month. I don't know if that would change the numbers in terms of the deposit and such.
Well, it would not change. Well, that would be up to y'all. From a staff perspective, I think we're comfortable with the $250,000 deposit based on the calculations you've received. And if you want to require solar, you certainly could do that, because it is an added cost to the project that you're asking for, in addition to what they're doing. We could forego any additional deposit to replace the solar system, unit. We do have a quote that was obtained by the civil engineer that represents the owner from a solar company, and it does, on the higher side of a large battery off grid would be $102,000. So we can provide you some more information, Commissioner. And I wasn't trying to urge you not to table it. I'm just saying I think we've got enough information here that if solar is something you want to see, we know the order of magnitude cost, and if that's your will as a body, we certainly can convey that to the developer and see what their response to that is.
Commissioner Hamby and then Commissioner Davenport. You're muted, Commissioner Hamby.
Thank you. You think I would learn? I don't know what the hell is going on here. But y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a piece of property over there near oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank on the neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood.
Jefferson River Road and Jefferson.
Yeah. Is this property needs to be rezoned, correct? Am I right in saying that or not?
It's currently RS8.
Is it up for? This isn't. I'm sorry. I'm leading us down a path that I may not know.
This is a property that there was the request to send a binding site plan back to the Planning Commission on.
Okay, but that hasn't happened yet, right?
That hasn't happened. Given the scale of use and topography, any residential use at current zoning would also require a pump station, from my understanding.
Well, and so that's where I'm going, I guess. I'm wondering, why are we requiring them to get the pump station approved before they know if the rezoning's approved? Is that the case or not? Carol's shaking. I don't know. I don't know, Carol.
I don't think we're requiring them, from my reading. I think that they have asked to move this forward. Manager Williams will get that right, though, I'm sure.
Well, okay. I think, I'm sorry.
No, I guess I'm just confused. I mean, why not go for the rezone? Because, you know, the body may not approve the rezoning and they've done all this for naught, I guess, or it's not a word, but.
If I'm not mistaken, this connection to the sewer system will enable increased density. Which
Right.
is
I get that, but they haven't done the rezoning yet. So.
Well, and I do. And you could predicate your approval or condition your approval on the ultimate, you know, but if you don't approve this or indicate that you're willing to do this, then it really sort of preempts the rezoning because they can't get that density.
Okay, I get that now. Yeah. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you. Look forward to hearing about the rezoning.
Commissioner Davenport.
Yeah, maybe on a side note, maybe I should have took that phone call today. But yeah, I had the same question that Hamby had, the same parcel of land. So thank you, Commissioner Hamby. But yeah, he asked my question.
Okay. Other input.
I just say I think in my reading of it, I think they say they want the pump no matter if it's rezoned or not. So is that correct? Commissioner Denson is shaking his head on that. You know, and I think I brought this up as well because have done some reading on development costs. And I'm just trying to figure out how that is going to impact us. They're giving this deposit that will cover their costs for 20 years. But, you know, 20 years goes by pretty quickly, and then it's all on the taxpayers. And I've read about how we as a community need to think carefully about how we're going to pay for those the infrastructure costs in years ahead and ahead. So, and you know, this is just from having gotten some answers to some questions today. I'm not doing this because of any feelings on the development itself, but just trying to understand the costs of the infrastructure and whether or not the solar would be good for our commitment and also for the economics in the long term and how that would fit in with what we're agreeing with. And that's the tabling for a month.
20 years ago, I met Carol and I had hair at that point, so it does go by pretty quick.
Manager Williams.
Sorry.
Yes, and just a quick correction because we're in budget season too. So the enterprise, the Public Utilities Department, is not supported by taxpayer dollars. It is ratepayers, which is very close to the term taxpayers, but it's the folks that pay their water bills that help to fund the system. And you're absolutely right with that concept, Commissioner. They will assume the maintenance cost, you know, spread out over the number of ratepayers. The ordinance is silent on the amount of time that we would, you know, apply the deposit towards as far as a replacement value. Staff use 20 years because that seems to be the useful life of the pump station itself. And so getting through one cycle of replacement seemed, you know, but it's not in the ordinance. That's just what staff thought was reasonable.
Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Myers, you know, covered it all very well and did not mix up her pump stations, which is good. But yeah, I guess just to kind of piggyback on that, my understanding is this is only the second such station we're looking at. Is that right?
That's correct.
But we're probably going to see more of these coming down the pike. And so when we think of, you know, what kind of burden that puts in terms of expense and energy load and everything, you know, decades down the road when we're probably all done doing this work, I think it's important for us to build in as many sustainable components as possible. And so, so solar, and then also it's hard for us to get 100% oriented energy standards built into private development very often. This is an opportunity to do that. So I think taking some time to be able to consider this more thoughtfully and get the best option seems like the best way to go. I know that among the materials we were given yesterday, there were kind of 3 tiers of what we could do for solar here. There was one that was without a battery, and then 2 that were with different sized batteries, one kind of set up to be totally off grid and one that would still be connected to the grid. And as I read some of the materials, it sounded like we need to have 2 power sources attached. So that leads me to believe that we'd probably want to go with that middle option, which is a bit cheaper. Anyway, there's just kind of like a lot of details here. I feel like a little more time to digest it all would be best. And then the last question I had, I guess, from Andrew Williams is, did I read correctly that staff is working on a policy for this sort of thing in the future so that we have a clearer path forward for these sorts of projects that we can refer to without having to take it ad hoc like this?
Well, in as much as, the broad mandate that the commission has given us to look at renewable energy, and, we put solar out at Cedar Creek, we are working on developing some standard specs as it relates to, pump stations. Certainly, smaller pump stations, can be used for solar. So we are looking at that in the future, so we're not struggling to figure out how to make it work. You are correct, though, Commissioner Hull. We only have one other pump station that was given to us in this fashion. So this has not been something that we've encountered very often.
Thank you, Manager Williams.
Commissioner Hamby and Commissioner Davenport.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Mayor. This will be my last question. So I think I've got this now. So the property's zoned RS8. So even without even zoning RS8, if they don't have the pump station, they could develop with an RS8 situation. Is that right?
Correct.
I got you. Thank you. That helps.
Quick question. It looks like I missed some of those emails. I have to go back. Maybe this is a question for Commissioner Myers or Blaine. So at our last work session, I thought we talked about that solar power will only provide backup, but not the real power. Is that correct? And just try to learn more about this. Try to learn more about this solar power on the pump station.
Sure. So solar, it's depending on how you, and I'm not a solar expert, but how the inverter and all of it's wired up, I mean, it could run during the day, obviously. The pump may be required to run at night. And at that point, you definitely have to have the power. Solar could be the main source, but it'd have to quickly toggle to the backup power and not be separate. And of course, they are required to have two power sources.
Thank you.
All right. So there's a motion to hold for 1 month and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. So we're going to hold number 9 for the June cycle. All right. Number 10 is a SPLOST project. It's on the North Oconee River Greenway at MLK Parkway. And so this is public art for that project. So entertain a motion or any discussion.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. I've got a motion from Commissioner Hamby for approval. Second from Commissioner Myers. All right.
Sure.
Further discussion.
Aye.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. Item number 11 is the SPLOST Project 34 Water Trails Project, the Macon Highway Launch Project concept. So any discussion or motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I kind of
I'll
wanted to
discuss,
second that.
Mr. Mayor. Sorry. Yeah.
No,
just-
sorry.
Commissioner Thornton, and then I'll return to you, Commissioner Edwards.
No, I'm sorry. I was making a joke that I wanted to second so I could make a comment. So Commissioner Edwards can go ahead.
All right, Commissioner Edwards, and then Commissioner Link.
And then Commissioner Thornton.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner Thornton. Manager Williams, if you could please provide me some information about how our city staff monitors our park areas to
answer to the concern raised by Gilbert Milner earlier. I think that would be great whenever you can, please, sir. Right now, we have a precarious situation on the Middle Oconee River where we're putting boaters in the water in Ben Burton and then trusting them to improvise and get out however they can. And over the years, I've gotten a chorus of complaints from private property owners who have been dealing with trespassers just trying to get off of the river. So I think we all recognize that public access can help ameliorate this trespassing and also create more public appreciation for the Middle Oconee River, which is an absolutely beautiful resource in our county. One of my fondest memories is boating with my son Teddy when he was 3 years old, and we went behind Beechwood and saw an otter together in a kayak. And then last Sunday we went boating, and I was with my nephew, who is a little younger than Teddy. Right as we went into a rapid behind Beechwood, a banded water snake came right up in front of our kayak as we were going through the rapids. So it really is a tremendously rich ecosystem full of herons, turtles, fish, snakes, otters, and I know that our paddling community has done a tremendous job cleaning up the community, cleaning up the river, and participating in Rivers Alive and other events like that. I'd like to thank the neighbors in Princeton Mill who raised concerns and actually improved this project by removing the proposal to get rid of the slip lane on Macon Highway, also renaming the project to make it more geographically descriptive, which I think will help in the long run. This is the Macon Highway takeout. So I've enjoyed boating on this river for years, and I'm very excited to know that my fellow community members will be able to do it safely if we all vote on this motion. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Manager Williams, could you say a few words generally about security oversight by our staff at similar park spaces?
Sure. So, we don't have enough staff to be full-time at all facilities. We do have them at some facilities. We do have trail ambassadors, which we would hope to expand the program to river trail ambassadors for information and eyes on the street. Staff does patrol our parks and obtains assistance from the police department as needed. Our police department is often visible in our parks, which is helpful as well. This particular park is going to be very visible from Macon Highway, so it's not tucked away in the woods. Hopefully there will be a lot of eyes on that facility once it's built.
Thank you, Manager Williams. Commissioner Thornton, Commissioner Lincoln, Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. I didn't mean to confuse you, Mayor. I'm sorry. I met some of the most amazing people on this issue that I just think I would love to get to know even better. And clearly this is a cultural divide for me. I didn't even know we had rafting and canoeing until this came up. Matter of fact, I am looking forward to going, I think, canoeing with Alan Jones on Memorial Day. It will be the first time. Hopefully it will not be my last time. So that amenity it's a world that I do not know. Okay. It's a world that I do not know. But what I do know is when people have a vision about their property and the vision that they foresee in the future, and then another vision happens that may be a great vision. I think that everyone knows that I just have this unwritten rule. I want people to be comfortable with coming into their community. And the best way to do that, I heard someone speak earlier about there were opportunities to speak and a splash vote, and yeah, but nobody looks at that. You know, when we make these kind of, the average person is depending on us as elected officials to keep them abreast on things that are happening in their community. I won't be voting for this tonight. I will be paddling though, and kayaking. I am just getting daring in my old age, but I gotta respect the investments that people put in their community for the vision they may have had 20 years ago. And now with the Greenway, that's a new vision that has seemed to overlap or kind of collided with folk that have invested in their communities. If this passes, I will support it. But I really, really respect the people that, even if it's fear, I think somebody said that, work with folk with their fears, answer their questions, give them the documentation that they're asking for. That would alleviate some fear. So again, I'm not voting for it, but I am so glad that we have something like that in this community that goes with all the other great places. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I want to thank the folks that came out to speak tonight to remind us that the river is a public national resource. It belongs to all of us. It doesn't just belong to folks that happen to own property along the river. And by allowing these public access spaces, are enabling the public to access that natural resource and reiterating that this is something that belongs to all of us. So, fully in support of this, and I am fully aware of the due diligence that went into finding this location. I've been on the now pushing 7 years, and we've had multiple votes and sessions where this has come up. And I've been to also committee meetings and Greenway Commission meetings where this has come up. So, we did take a vote committing to water trails several years ago. The Greenway Network plan was out there for months and months and months. People were all over the place at the farmers markets and public meetings, community meetings, taking input on that Greenway Network plan. So I feel like there has been ample opportunity to make the public aware that these put in and outtake locations were part of that network plan. And what we're voting on tonight is simply that access to the river. We're not voting on the actual Greenway Trail. We're not voting on any kind of on-land trail through anybody's property. That's not part of what we're voting on. And quite frankly, those on-land trails through people's properties don't have a whole lot to do with these boat ramp accesses, because it's not like you're going to strap your kayak to your bike and travel up a Greenway Trail to access the boat ramp. We have a small parking lot and direct access from an output to an intake and vice versa. And I feel like this is a very well thought out output area. I'm looking forward to getting on the river and getting off the river myself at this location.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. And I am part of the longevity of this hunt for a second place on the Middle Oconee. I was on the first water trails that got the Ben Burton Park. I couldn't believe how long it took, and the permits and the cost for the permits and the team effort that it took to get that river access point. I couldn't stay on that committee by myself without Jerry Neesmith tagging along, because once it started talking about being in Ben Burton, that was something, as we all know, near and dear to him. So that's a success. I regret that we haven't had enough time for the community to get the paperwork to understand and not have those fears. This was title only for a while, and we were expected to answer a lot of questions, and then it came off the agenda, and then had a work session, and then it wasn't going to be voted on. And here we are showing our support for this grant, which I think is very important. But I do regret that the speed of it is interfering with our outreach to some people. So much, Mr. Milner, if we can get some contact to him and summarize. It sounds like Commissioner Edwards is also getting those details. Isn't it going to be gated park too? And if we can, gated parking lot, so we can let people know, like the other gated park that are gated or locked from dawn to dusk, those sort of details, so that, as he said, he would be more comfortable what's going on. And then the list of the other sites, I was on some of those other properties, and when this one came up, it was just far and beyond better than the other ones that were isolated, where security is kind of challenging, as well as the price that property owners wanted. So if we can get that out, I wasn't able to get that list out to people that were asking for it. So I think we can continue to share with people. It's always hard for us who are working deep in these projects for years sometimes, or new commissioners who are getting and learning it as fast as they can, the community, and engaging them to know what's happening so they're not so surprised and then negative, and then it's harder to get them to see the positive parts. But I only see the positive parts, but I am trying to help those who are concerned about it. And I am very excited about this site, and was thrilled to hear the church and their feedback today, because I didn't have that to share with some of the emails that we've been getting. But as we get more information, I'm glad to have that as additional positive to share.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Hamby.
Yeah, I want to speak as a person who lives on the river. Well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I really like the North Oconee, but I don't have a lot of experience with the Middle Oconee, so maybe I can join you on that Memorial Day paddle. And one of the reasons I haven't gone on it, because there wasn't a way to get out. I didn't know how to get out. And so I am thrilled that we will have this companion launch site and takeout site for the Ben Burton Park there. I understand the fears of people in neighborhoods. I know that my neighborhood is on the Greenway plan, and it's a way visionary, but when we have gotten postcards to invite us to special sessions on the Greenway planning over the years, and I know it scares a lot of people. But I think in terms of the water trail, I really want to reassure people that the water trail is in the water and a very different experience than the Greenway Trail itself. I actually could look over this laptop and see the North Oconee River right out there. And I have very easy access down quite a steep hill, but it's all grass. I'm not going through briars or privet or anything else like that. I see paddlers go by. I've lived along the river for 25 years. I've never had anyone come out into my yard from their kayak. I welcome there being more kayakers and paddlers in the river, because our rivers really have been neglected. As Commissioner Thornton, said, a lot of people don't know that there are rivers here. And one of our speakers mentioned seeing blue herons. I probably see more. Well, it might be the same blue heron, but I see him or her all the time out there, more than I see paddlers. I'd like to see more paddlers, because when I take my kayak and paddle upstream, the one thing I do see a lot of is trash. I see a lot of trash in the river, and our paddlers have come in and helped at the different water cleanups. And I'm hoping that as we get more people on the rivers, that we can pay more attention to the ecology of the river, to the riverbanks themselves, to cleaning up that space. And I think these canoe and kayak launches will help us do that. And I welcome getting legal in and outs on the North Oconee. So I will be supporting this. And thank all of you who came out and spoke and emailed us as well.
Thanks, Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate you. And I'll be quick. I think both Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Wright made some good points. Commissioner Myers, I appreciate your comments about noticing the litter on the water trails. I've too noticed that, especially like with plastic bags and such. And you realize that as you take those journeys. in my experiences too, I've never seen a free for all with the kayaking, and I think people are respectful and whatnot. I don't know if the mayor remembers this or not, so I'm gonna raise Russell's otter and snake experience to an experience with Mayor Gertz and I about, it's probably been about 12 years ago now, with Ben Emanuel and Elizabeth Little on this part of the river. So if you've ever crossed a snake or an otter, go down the river with Elizabeth Little and you'll feel good about seeing that snake and that otter. And I'm just joking about Elizabeth. Elizabeth's a great person, but she's also done a lot of good for our environment and for this community. I've also been on the other part of the river with Alan Jones and flipped over twice. So this is a warning to Commissioner Thornton as she goes with Alan down the river. He helped me get back upright, which was good. I guess it's good. Some of you may not think it's good, but he helped me get back upright. So Commissioner Thornton, I hope he does the same for you.
Okay, I'm glad you told me that. Maybe we'll postpone a little bit.
At any rate, I think this is a good project, a good vote. It addresses what we pride ourselves on here in Athens. One of the things, the quality of life, the activities that we have to offer people. We those of us on the commission remember when Caterpillar came to town. That was a big issue about activities that are available for people here in town, for the people that are coming to work here in town. So, and this is one of those activities. So, I think the concerns about, as Carol Myers, Commissioner Myers raised about being protective of the waterways, I think this helps us do that. And I'm protective. I'd like to think I'm protective of the waterways just as much as I am protective of our green space here in Athens, because I think they all relate to one another. For not only now, but for future generations to come. So thank you. Appreciate you letting me talk.
Thanks. And Commissioner Edwards.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let my colleagues know that the document and that staff prepared detailing the various parcels that had been explored over the years that my colleague Commissioner Link alluded to. We all received that in our email. Manager Williams gave that to us a couple of weeks ago, I think, and it had, it's sort of a tricky situation when the government's in the position of purchasing real estate. We can't divulge all that we're doing, but Manager Williams was able to give us a good idea of the various parcels surrounding this one site that the county had already explored and had already found to be unsuitable. One site already in use privately for kayakers. Another parcel had a restrictive covenant that doesn't allow recreational units. Another parcel farther downstream had an old landfill that was on it. Another parcel downstream, too steep. So I just wanted to assure my colleagues that I shared that document with residents that spoke tonight and residents in Princeton Mill to show them that this isn't just a fly-by-night process. We have done a tremendous amount of due diligence to identify this parcel and also enjoy this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity where you have a institution, Princeton Mill United Methodist Church, amenable to this development and actually explaining that this is part of their youth mission work. So again, I'd like to thank the residents in Princeton Mill and staff for hosting the town hall meeting that we had in Princeton Mill about a month ago. There were about 30 residents there. And as a result of that meeting, the name was changed to Macon Highway Boat Launch. I think it's a better name. And we also changed the traffic alignment concept on Macon Highway. So staff, thank you for making that happen after hours. Thank you for providing the information about the real estate search that I shared with residents in this area. And thank you to the church for being a great partner in this project. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Commissioner. And Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited for this. People can get in District 6 and get out in District 7. So really excited for there to be a safe place for people to get out that I think will actually reduce the likelihood of anybody having to go through anybody's yard. And I think most all the points that I was hoping would be raised have been raised already. So I'll forego repeating them, except one thing I did want to speak to, because it was a concern that was relayed to me by some residents, and then it raised an eyebrow for me, was this idea of, we had this grant pre-application that was circulating around, and this worry that this would be some kind of like a domino effect, that by approving this, we'd be sort of, setting in motion other things. And I just want to clarify for everybody that that is definitely not the case. I know it was discussed a bit in our meeting before, and in the materials we got from staff since, it was said unequivocally, like, we are just voting on just this. The idea of this becoming a future hub of activity is kind of a dreamy idea of where the Greenway can end up decades from now, but certainly there will be a lot of opportunity for us to get more public input, hopefully be even more proactive and effective at getting that if and when we decide to do anything else. But right now it's just this. I think this is fantastic, and I'm excited to support it.
Thanks, Commissioner. Just before we vote, I want to say I very fondly remember that trip down the Middle Oconee that Commissioner Hamby and I took with Ben Emanuel and Elizabeth Little. There are places on the Middle Oconee where not only wouldn't you think you're in Athens, you really wouldn't think you're in a city at all. You'd think you're a million miles from any other people or development. And that's part of the experience that I know we all benefit from, in terms of the draw of the community, but also in terms of being in touch with the things that I think are going to advance the cause for human life for generations to come. Appreciate all the due diligence of staff. I do see this as a very tight, focused project, and one that will more easily allow safe exit from the river, unlike the exit that we experienced 12 years ago when we climbed up the hill there adjacent to Macon Highway. So I'm looking forward to its use. So I believe Commissioner Edwards made the motion and Commissioner Wright seconded. Madam Clerk, if you could do a roll call for me, I'd appreciate it.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Thornton,
Oops, no.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Blake,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Denson,
Yes.
Poole.
Yes.
9 yes, 1 no.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I appreciate it. All right, we are moving forward to item number 12, which is a recommendation to modify our neighborhood traffic management program for substandard streets, creating more flexibility for potential infrastructure upgrades for communities. This went through legislative review, and the recommendation is adoption of the attached neighborhood traffic management program policy. So, Commissioner Wright, I'll turn it over to you for any further comments.
Thank you.
Or for motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept these improvements that we have made so that we can move on and get some of these neighborhoods assessed and some improvements in there. It was assigned in December 2019, came out of committee, September 2020, November, the Mayor Commission sent it back to committee, and we've been working on it pretty steadily for 2021. And so I hope that we will get this approved so that staff can work on this and safety improvements can be made in the community.
I second it.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Thornton, and I thank the committee members for their work. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Hamby next.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. And Commissioner Wright, I hate to ask you these questions. I should have already asked you and known the answer during our agenda setting. But in the thing, and I just am trying to understand how y'all came to these numbers. So in the process, we're going from 500 vehicles per day to 300 vehicles per day. And also from the 300 vehicles per day and an 85th percentile speed of 30 miles an hour or greater. On local roads, most of our speed limit is like 25 miles or greater. Did y'all have any discussions about that 300 number for one? But also, if 300 people are going 85th percentile, that means about 15% of that 300. So 45 people out of that 300 are still speeding through the neighborhood. And those are usually the 45 people that are always speeding through the neighborhood, I guess. So, did you have discussions about lowering that threshold and also lowering the speed limit, I guess, since most local roadways are at 25 miles an hour and we can't use radar for the local roadways. It just seems, I see where you dropped it from 32 and a half to 30. So is that going to make that big a difference? I'm wondering. Is it going to be easier for people to get the neighborhood traffic calming?
Well, Commissioner Hamby, as the chair of GOC, we really miss you in LRC.
I know it.
You see that we've made some changes since you left, but what I can tell you, what I can tell you off the top of my head is that it was at 500. So by lowering it to 300, that was we thought a significant improvement. And then the 85 percentile is not negotiable. That percentile cannot be changed with all the different parameters. I don't have the, maybe some other LRC can look up some of these details, but some of the things that Steve Decker brought forward was the 85 percentile cannot be changed. We can change the number threshold, and then Blaine's probably ready to answer as well. And then I believe that where it is a 25 mile per hour, that we are addressing that as well. I don't think this is only for 35 mile per hour. So,
I think the way I read it is that that 85th percentile, if they're going 30 or above, and I'm wondering why I get the 85th percentile. Right. I don't know why GDOT does that, but the 85th percentile, why did y'all have any discussion about making it 25 and above, since most local roadways are 25 miles per hour anyway? You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to have to let the manager pick up on that.
Don't worry about it. We're going to vote on it tonight. So I just want us to, as future iterations of this come to us, maybe the future for future study.
Yeah.
Maybe we look at lowering the 300 to 200 or something, or figuring out that number and then lowering the speed. I'm not going to hold it up.
And what I do know is that we have the numbers as a guideline. Like they say in Pirates of the Caribbean, it's a guideline. But we also have the safety audit committee happening, and we have other more subjective criteria that can be assessed. So it's not just the numbers. There's other criteria that are also going to be evaluated. So it's not cut and dry, because that's been kind of part of the problem about areas with traffic speeding problems in neighborhoods not getting the help that they needed because they weren't meeting the tight thresholds. So we've got things other than the numbers, the assessments.
And I saw in there that you've got the traffic engineer, that they could sort of weigh in on it as well. So I guess I'm specifically looking at areas along my district where there's a lot of cut throughs from arterial roads or connector roads through local roadways. That create trouble for the local roadways, and I just hope that this can address that. So. Well,
and it might be that we need to pick back up on what aren't the neighborhood traffic. So remember, from the corridor committee, we've got the different types of roadways. So this was specifically for neighborhood calming, and that could be picked up under some of the other categories, which I think is listed in the new ordinance, the different types of roadways.
It is. Thanks. I don't mean to cause you trouble, but I appreciate it.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Does expand those criteria just beyond speed and volume to include, things like whether or not there are sidewalks and setbacks and things like that. One thing that isn't addressed here, and I don't know how we begin this conversation, but how do we lower speed limits in our neighborhoods? 25 miles per hour is too fast on many neighborhood streets.
Agree.
My little side neighborhood street off Boulevard, I feel like if you're going more than 15 miles per hour, it's too fast. And I'd like us to somehow start that conversation and come up with an analysis of streets where we need to lower the speed limit below 25 miles per hour. And there are also plenty of roads where the speed limit is 30 or 35, and it probably should be 25. I'm thinking of that stretch of Barber Street as you approach Prince Avenue, that's a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit. MLK, I believe, is like 35 and 40 in sections that are quite residential. So, beyond this conversation about the traffic management program, I'd like to ask the mayor or the manager to begin some kind of analysis on how we can actually lower speed limits in streets. And I know GDOT doesn't let us do it because in some places they won't let us pull a radar permit, but I'm talking about streets where we're already not allowed to have radar permits because they're neighborhoods that have stop signs too close and inclines and curves and things like that.
I think we can get some staff overview of that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank staff and my colleagues for the work to ensure we've codified the inclusion of tenants in this process. I thought that was a really important addition to this, in addition to the homeowner-based process that was already being implemented. And I hope that sets a solid precedent for our approach to other policymaking in the months and years ahead. I also want to reiterate that people or neighborhoods who've pursued traffic calming considerations in the past but not had any luck in getting what they were hoping for, this is an opportunity to try again, where many more neighborhoods should be set up for a better chance at success. So basically, after this vote, assuming it passes, which I feel confident it's going to, there's a chance to try again. So if you're out there listening or watching later and you've tried this before, it's different now. To that end, I guess I just had one question for Manager Williams and or Clerk Spratlin, which is, for those of us who have had constituents already coming to us for quite some time now, we know there's a few neighborhoods that are already looking to do this. Should we just send you an email after this, or would you like to hear those suggestions now or at the end of today's meeting? Or I'm seeing some head shakes, so just send the email and go through the usual work order process. Okay.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Edwards.
I'm in favor of this motion and we'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further input? All right. There's a motion on the floor from Commissioner Wright. I apologize. Who's the second?
I'll second. If nobody else has.
I think Commissioner Thornton.
It was me. It was
okay.
Rita.
Thank you. All right. Motion from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Thornton. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, we got the new plan. All right, item 13 is the request to rename two facilities, and I want to make sure that I get the language correct. This would request that the Mayor and Commission approve the application to name the Lay Park Gymnasium the Willie Hull Gymnasium, and to rename East Athens Community Center the Aaron Hurd Park and Community Center.
So moved.
I'd like to make a second and a remark, if I may.
All right.
No,
Motion
first.
All right. Motion from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Houle, and then we'll hear from those two commissioners in that order.
I done learned how to do this first and second stuff, Jesse. This, to me, is just as important as the water trails were to a lot of people. And you do not know how many folks said this could not be done and it would not have been done. And I don't know if any other commission would have done it. I really don't know. I struggle because this is what I meant. This is a perfect example of what I meant that the Athens Black Lives Matter resolution should encompass. We in Athens, and I'm not even a born Athenian, but I've been here long enough. I think that some people come in to town and they think they know it because they have a different mindset. And believe it or not, Aaron Hurd thought that about me 30-something years ago. And because I came in and I wanted to be involved, and you gotta respect what is already there so you can build these relationships. Willie Hall has been a mentor to my boys through the years. He's quiet, unassuming, but very influential. And this renaming, like I said, everybody's not going to be happy. But I know that this sends a positive message that this Black community has not been feeling a part of, have not been feeling a part of the local government.
Thank you.
I think this would be awesome. I heard thank you, but now everybody's blank. I'm through. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor Gertz. Yeah, I'm not sure who the thank you was. Yeah, I can't really say anything any better than Commissioner Thornton did. I just wanted to extend a thank you to the residents who've really advocated for this. I'm glad that we have a policy in place that should make it a lot easier and clearer moving forward. But Mr. Rick Dunn and Mr. Fred Smith and some of the others who have, tried to push this forward for years, I'm glad that it's finally coming to fruition now, and I wanted to thank them as well for their hard work in making this a reality.
Thanks, Commissioner.
I would also like to say that since y'all can't see me, I'm just going to butt in since that's what we do sometimes. I'd also like to thank those that advocated and were patient with us through the restructuring of the renaming policy and just the hard work of bringing this forward. I did receive a call. I'm sure many of us received many calls in support of this renaming. But in one call I received today, I had a constituent say, I'm glad that we're honoring our past, but what are we doing to keep alive the ways that these gentlemen uplifted the youth of the community? And I wanted to draw people's attention to the fact that in the mayor's recommended budget that came out last Friday, it does include $190,000 for continued renovations of both former Lele Park and East Athens Park centers. And so I think that's very important that not only do we honor these gentlemen through this deed, but in our work as a community in making sure that the youth of Athens have what they need to succeed, and glad to see us doing so and hope we can do so more robustly as we continue our budget talks moving forward. So thanks to those that brought that to my attention, those questions of how we're keeping that legacy alive in more than word, but also in deed, and for having patience with us in bringing this important rededication forward.
Thanks, Commissioner Parker. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, I too just want to appreciate all the people that worked hard to make this happen and to honor the lives and the work of these two influential African-American men who worked with our youth. I also had someone call me today who talked so much about youth development. And I'm really glad to hear what Commissioner Parker just shared about the money, which I have not read the budget as closely as she has to see that there's money's going to these two facilities, and that's wonderful. I want to repeat again the end of Mr. Rick Dunn's letter because I think this is so significant. Mr. Rick Dunn is a person who put in the application, and anyone could read the whole letter in the agenda report, but he ends it by saying, "This town has reminders of people and events that work to keep people shackled by poverty and inequity. Now is the time to honor two modern-day heroes of hope and uplift." I am looking forward to referring to the Willie Hull Gymnasium and the Mr. Aaron Hurd Community Center. And thank you to both those men.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Denson and Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was wrong with everyone just saying that I'm very excited that we have the chance to honor these two men. I definitely learned so much more from those calls and having conversations with the personal impacts, the personal stories that these men had in people's lives. That I've really appreciated those calls over the last week and having those conversations. And I was talking to Commissioner Edwards about some of those calls too, and it kind of came to mind that some of this history gets lost over the decades when we renamed these buildings. I learned a lot actually about Mr. Thomas Lay during these conversations because there was some confusion around if the whole Lay Park was being renamed. And of course it's not, as I appreciate Mr. Dunn really making clear. But it did come to mind though that I think to honor these folks, we really need to make sure that history is kept for why this is happening. And so I think it's important that when we name one of these facilities like this, that on our website where we have stuff about the facilities and what they offer and what's there, what the hours are, that we have a bit of a document about why that amenity, that building is named after this individual, and really connect that history to why we're doing this. And I think that could be done in obviously more beautiful ways. That could be done with plaques or whatever we want to, and that would be fantastic also. But at minimum, let's have just recorded somewhere the things that these people did for our community and why we decided that it was appropriate to honor them. So I hope that we can have that included going forward. Honestly, when we do one of these renamings, I wish that we had put that in the policy. I hadn't thought of it when I was in committee, but hoping that we can just simply still fit that in there.
Thanks, Commissioner Denson. Commissioner Davenport.
Thank you. Or we could have an African American museum, because there's a lot of rich history in Athens and the surrounding area, and that's a good idea as well. But just short and sweet, I just want to say I'm a proud product of Mr. Willie Hurd, Mr. Willie Hull and Aaron Hurd's efforts.
Kelly, one more thing. Commissioner Denson alluded to. We wish we would have put it in the policy. I think that the current policy will not let us do what we just did. That was long overdue. When we have to wait for somebody to be deceased for 3 years and they have given their whole lives, and now we say, all of y'all got that, we all got that warm, fuzzy feeling right now. It's going to take 3 years now before we get that warm, fuzzy feeling again. And I think that was a huge mistake on this policy. This is how we preserve Black history, and we just can't afford to wait till people are dead for 3 years. But I just wanted to close with that. But I thank this commission. I thank Rick Dunn. I thank all the people who have called us. Kelly, do your thing.
All right, I've got one more bit of commission input from Commissioner Link.
Oh, okay.
You're muted, Commissioner Link.
Sorry. I'm really happy to see these buildings being named after Black leaders in our community. But I just want to remind folks that, that Black history that is being upheld by naming these newer buildings after folks is, concurrently being destroyed as buildings that have had significance to Black history are being destroyed. I don't know if folks are aware, but the historic Campbell Street building on the West Broad campus is slated for demolition, and that's a really important structure in the segregation era. A reminder of how Athens School District tried to postpone desegregation, I think it's really important that we recognize the actual structures that were important to Black history so that we can remember and know not to repeat that history. So I just want to remind folks that there is an emergency online meeting being held by Historic Athens tomorrow at noon. If y'all can just go to Historic Athens Facebook page at noon tomorrow to learn more about the pending demolition of this important structure from the equalization era.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right. I believe I've got a motion from Commissioner Thornton and a second from Commissioner Houle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Hearing none, I look forward to seeing everybody at the ribbon cuttings for those newly renamed facilities. All right. We are moving.
Will be Mayor Gertz?
If I think about the last one we did, it probably will be a couple months. There's some signage to be ordered and some logistics to manage. So, Manager Williams, would you say approximately summertime?
Yes, sir.
Music to my ears. Summertime ribbon cutting. Let's do it.
All right. All right. Get your vaccine, folks. So show up at the ribbon cutting. All right. Item 14, the P-card ordinance for elected officials. And I think there was some email clarification provided earlier this week by staff. So certainly entertain a motion or any commission comment. Commissioner Houle?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'll kick off with a couple questions. I really appreciate the information we got from staff clarifying a lot of our questions before. In service of being transparent and accessible, I'm interested in getting, I think, two things further. I'm not sure either of those need to hold up establishment of this ordinance tonight, but I would like this information as soon as we can get it. The first would be copies of our purchasing policies regarding how these cards can be used for personal expenses in a professional context. So things like travel, meals, and business meetings. I'd just like to better understand what our policies are around what people can use those for and what they can't use those for. And then, amounts of expenditures that are considered appropriate, things like that. And then the second would be data. Might be more useful to just plan to get this in the future once they've been used for a while, but data on what the P cards are used for, namely breaking down the purchases for supplies and facilities and things that we kind of gotten a lot in that staff report versus those personal expenses in a professional context. And it strikes me that these cards are generally being used by some of the highest paid people in Athens-Clarke County. So I'd just like to clearly understand what parameters are laid out in our policies regarding personal expenditures and how much of the total expenditures on P cards are for those personal expenses versus departmental use.
Thanks, Commissioner. Manager Williams, is that some material that staff can provide?
Absolutely, but I do want to be clear that the unauthorized purchases are anything that is not directly related to the official responsibilities of the official. So it is not really meant for you to use for personal and then get reimbursed. Now, there could be a mistake made, and that's not going to send anybody to jail, but they have to provide receipts, and it's signed off. We have a very robust Bank of America checks and balances that's been instituted. So I just want to, we'll certainly follow up, Commissioner, but I just want to dispel that for anybody watching that, this is not a card to be used for personal reasons.
Sure thing. And I guess if I may just follow up to clarify what I'm getting at here. And, my experience is newer to the government, more so in the nonprofit sector where there's similar purchasing policies and, people have business meetings and things like that. And there are certain things that you can get, some places allow you to get coffee and food on your P card and some nonprofits don't. So it's just not clear to me what those policies are here in Clarke County for our government employees.
Be glad to provide that to all of y'all.
Commissioner Davenport.
Motion to approve.
I second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Davenport and a second from Commissioner Myers. It's an ordinance, Attorney Drake.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there is an ordinance with this item as well as a resolution. The ordinance sets forth, authorizes elected officials to have purchasing credit cards, and then the resolution specifies who the commission is authorized and what elected officials are authorized to have them. And the commission will recall they requested that the mayor and the commissioners be removed from the list. So the ordinance is an ordinance to amend the Code of Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, with respect to elected officials purchasing and credit cards and for other purposes.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. All right, I've got a motion and a second. Any further input? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to item 15, which for those new to the body is
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If we could also get a motion to approve the resolution that designates what elected officials can have the cards.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. Can I get a motion for the resolution approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion from Commissioner Davenport, second from Commissioner Houle for the associated resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, resolution carries. All right, item 15 is our calendar year 21 pavement maintenance program roadway list and project resolution. And I know there's a little bit of email traffic just clarifying the different roadway treatments that are part of this item. So I'd certainly entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
If I might, Mayor, actually not going to vote on this tonight. Staff's not asking you to vote on this tonight. This would be considered at May 18th under suspension of rules.
I see. This is agenda setting, basically, for this item.
Now, I will say, though, we put this on so that there'd be plenty of time for folks to see it. And let me just give you an update on where we are. The things you're being asked to consider is approving the list of roadways and associated maintenance activities, and those are attachments here, and we definitely need you to vote on that. What we were hoping to get was some pricing back from the contractor or under current contract to see if we could continue that, giving the kind of the pricing that's going on in the market right now. We've yet to get that back, but we are hearing a signal that that's going to raise considerably, and so staff was trying to wait to get that to help advise y'all whether we should extend their contract or go back out for bid and award. Staff is going to ask them for a deadline of maybe later this week or early next week, and if it doesn't seem favorable, then we will go back out to bid. What that means is that probably at your July 20th agenda setting session, we would come back to you with a bid to approve, because paving season happens during the warm months, and we need to go ahead and move that forward. But we are anticipating higher prices than we've been accustomed to because of escalation in the markets. And so bear with us there, but this is just for everybody to look at, understand, and ask additional questions on our way to May 18th.
Additional questions, Commissioner Myers.
I did have a question. I was reading about the costs, and it's based on observed pavement deterioration. Basically we need to have 75 miles annually for 17 years and approximately $8 million to achieve is that $8 million a year for that?
Yes.
And like this year, the anticipated expense is $6.5 million. Is that correct as well?
Yes, and I can explain that, Delta.
Oh, and then as a follow-up, when you're explaining that, this is money that's coming from TSPLOST. So is there something in here that we need to know about future funding? This TSPLOST money is going to be running out. So if you could sort of talk to the funding in the future years as well.
Yes, and so the difference between the $8 million and the $6.5 million. So first off, the revenues that help to fund this, some of it's very small amounts coming from last year's general fund. Some of it comes from general fund capital that you allocate each year, usually about $600,000 annually. Some of it comes from GDOT and their local roads grant program that we participate in. And then the rest is from TSPLOST. So the $6.5 million comes from multiple sources. The difference between the 6.5 and the 8, and this is pretty consistent with our SPLOST processes, our SPLOST and TSPLOST. There are a lot of needs and a lot of requests, and invariably the request for the TSPLOST or SPLOST funds greatly exceeds the revenues that are projected. And so the Citizens Committee, and of course you, have the unenviable task of trying to whittle that down to a manageable amount. Staff had initially requested enough funds in the paving program to not only take care of the backlog that was known at the time, but also to keep us current from day one. Unfortunately, that had to get scaled back to fit other projects in as a Citizens Committee, and you saw fit. And so what we were able to do is address the backlog, but that was from years past over the next 5 years, but from day one start accumulating a new backlog. So with TSPLOST, we've been able to address a much longer backlog, but we've created a new backlog, if you will, that's not quite as extensive, and something you might want to consider as we enter the next TSPLOST. And while we're there, Commissioner, if you don't mind, we right now are having some discussions about, if this needs to continue, which election in 2022 it might need to occur on. So we're still finding that out, but suffice it to say, it's probably going to be late summer, early fall when we start talking about the next TSPLOST. So just FYI there.
Never stops. Commissioner Hamby.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll be quick, Mayor, since we're going to talk about this next week as well. But, when we talk about the backlog, and part of the point of the TSPLOST was to help build that, to help close that backlog. But also, Manager Williams, I brought this up before about And I don't know, I didn't read your email about why we're waiting until next week. I know you got some more ducks you're trying to get in a row. But the thing is, I know we contract with one person to do this whole shebang. So could we not increase our efforts by contracting with more than just one person or more than just one company to do the maintenance and to do the repaving so that we get a lot of these things done quicker? It just seems like we fiddle around, and we're not. TSPLOST was to hopefully help us fill the backlog, but to hopefully help us move faster in getting some of this road improvements done. And I haven't seen that, but I could be wrong. But I'm just saying, it seems to me as we further this discussion next week, maybe keeping that in mind. Keep it in mind that we need more than just one company doing the work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I would just offer, so we here in Athens-Clarke County, we really try and go where the need is the most as far as the roads that require need. And of course, as y'all know, we had and I'm going to answer your question, Commissioner Hamby. We had a human employee that was evaluating the roads, and we've recently gone to an automated, which whatever road is in the worst condition at the time of evaluation is the one that makes the list. That being said, we don't pave roads based so much on proximity. So we may have the worst roads just all over the county. So from a mobilization standpoint, that causes costs to go up a little. And the second thing is that this is a unit price contract. So theoretically, the more volume you give somebody, the hopefully the lower prices you can attract. Right now, with all the state funds flooding them, I can tell the difference. The state's spending a lot of money on our road systems right now. That's going to also cause the cost to go up too. So we can certainly. I'll give you a response on that, Commissioner Hamby.
Yeah, thank you. Because I can see where the cost would go up, because if somebody's doing less work, the price, the economies of scale is going to be different. But have we ever explored how much different it's going to be? Because I know we've got a wish list of other projects out there. So maybe one company could work on the wish list. You see where I'm going. So I know economies of scale fit into it, but I think we need to figure out what the difference is.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Houle.
Feel like I know what I'm talking about, but I may not. So.
Thank you, Mayor. Manager Williams, is there a larger document or like a longer list of the full backlog that we could get access to just to kind of compare this list of recommended roads to the broader context?
Well, certainly we could provide that. So there's a score that's provided for all the roads that are evaluated, and we draw the line at what we can afford at any given time. And of course, and when y'all see that 17-year average life of pavement, all right, there's some nuances to that. One is, if there are, because I bet you there'd be a homeowner that says, Commissioner Houle, I haven't had my road paved in 17 years. And that's a function of use as well. So our collectors and arterials get more use. They're going to need to be paved more often. Our residential streets are lightly used, perhaps in some cases, not cut throughs, like someone mentioned before. But so those will last longer. That's just an average there. So it really is dependent on pavement condition. And while staff is very excited about this automated approach, which should standardize the evaluation of these and take the subjectivity out of it.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess it'd just be helpful to have that for reference, because indeed, I guess you're kind of picking up what I'm putting down here. I've had a number of people contact me about their roads, and some of their roads are on this list and some aren't. So just having that to kind of better inform my way of engaging that discussion would be helpful when we hear those questions and concerns from constituents. And then also, is there a copy of last year's list that we could see just to kind of compare this to that to see if there's anything that's shuffled around or lingered
We can
longer?
share that with you. With regard to the backlog, look at attachment number 3 for poor roads that need future resurfacing. And there's a map there, and see if that answers your question. If not, we will try to give you some more information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
Yeah, just a real quick clarification, Manager Williams. So are all these ratings done with that new automated process, the ones that were the road rankings we're seeing right now?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, and yeah, anyway, I happened to walk down to the cul-de-sac, the only street in my neighborhood that made this list, and it's a cul-de-sac. It received a 32. I was very surprised when I turned onto it because it really needs to be repaved. So that rating for my sample of 1 looks really good. I was really surprised, but it was a clear difference, and it's the only road in the neighborhood that's there to get done. So thank you.
Fun place to do donuts, the cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Any further input? All right, we'll be seeing this again in a couple of weeks, everyone. We're going to move on to item number 16. These are the standard heavy-duty wrecker on-call service contracts, which are the current return to our agenda. Any input on this item? Commissioner Houle.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to ask to put this on hold so we can have some more time to understand why the contract is structured this way, and mostly where this is coming from. I understand that folks who have been on this body for a long time have been through this before, probably each 4-year cycle that this comes through. But what's been unclear to me up to this point is why the effectiveness of this approach is tied to the proportion in which we award contracts. So there's kind of this unequal proportion of 40% for one, 20% for another, and then the remaining 40% split up between any other vendors who qualify through the RFP process. But my understanding is other communities around Georgia, kind of the standard in other communities, is that any vendors who qualify all have kind of an equal portion of the pie. So it's not clear to me why that particular part of this is necessary, even though it is clear from reading through the facts and issues and talking to some of my colleagues that, the overall process was warranted and has proven to be successful in addressing a lot of the concerns that led to it coming into place, I think back in 2004, if I understand correctly. So if somebody could speak to those concerns, or if y'all are comfortable putting this on hold and, we can talk about it at the next meeting.
Motion to hold for a cycle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Motion from Commissioner Houle, second from Commissioner Parker. Further input, Commissioner Myers or Commissioner Wright. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you. I had read in the document there was it looked like a pivotal point of May 1, 2021 in the contract. I understand why this is confusing, because it is. And if some of the GOC members could speak to your all's recent review of this, and I think it came out of committee without any adjustments after it was studied. I think that we should move this forward. These companies spend a lot of time and effort on this process. They eagerly await the appointment. It's very unusual that the top one is letting the second one move forward, and I think that they would probably be eager to get their be ready for that change. But I think that if a couple commissioners need more time to understand it, maybe we don't need to hold the whole thing up. That's my opinion on
it. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Commissioner Wright, I'm not sure that I was not on government ops at the time that this was discussed, but I have been through several iterations of the tow truck thing, Commissioner Houle, and I compared it to the feral cats sort of thing that we went through. It does open up a can of worms, but you do raise some valid points and some good questions. But I think we've discovered over time, and Mayor Kurtz may help me with this, but I think we've discovered over time that this system has worked best. So far you've got the way that we have the on-call, and the tow truck companies have been using this system for the past few years now, and And before this, there were, like I said, there was a feral cat issue. I mean, we had hundreds of people come to the city hall to talk about the tow truck business. I learned all I need to know about it, and it was quite an experience. So this seems to have worked well for the tow truck business and for the users on the end run, and for the police department, who has to use our tow truck companies quite often, and so certainly I think it's been a fair process, and so forth. So I'm inclined to move forward with it just because I know about this, but certainly willing to listen to what others have to say as well.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I was on GovOps when we discussed this. I believe Commissioner Davenport was too, and maybe Commissioner Denson. I think Commissioner Denson was too when we discussed this. And from what I recall, there's varying capacities among the different companies, which accounts for some of the companies being allocated more calls. We got a lot of reporting and data from ACCPD, relaying that capacity and response times. We did take a serious look at it and found that this system that's, was established quite a while back is I don't know if Commissioner Davenport or Denson want to chime in if they have any recollection of those discussions, or if the manager's office could provide the report that came out of that discussion.
Commissioner Davenport?
Yeah, we did research this extensively. So we did research this extensively. We looked at 911 calls from dispatch, police department. So as Commissioner Link alluded to, it really has to deal with capacity. So you have these big providers who have, let's say, like 30, 40 trucks, and then you have these small providers that have 1 or 2 trucks. So like on a given Friday, you may have a whole bunch of cars illegally parked. You may have a couple of wrecks. Majority of the phone calls are going to go to those big providers who have the big capacity, because they can get those trucks out. They got the payroll, they got the labor force to get to them. And then once those are exhausted or nearing exhaustion, you go to the small providers who may not be able to have the capacity to handle the workload of a Friday or Saturday night or game night and such, in a situation like that. But I think this thing, I think we should move forward with this. There's nothing controversial about it. It's been used. We research other cities. Our haulers seem to enjoy it as well. Not our haulers, excuse me, our tow truck companies. Long night seem to enjoy it as well. So I see no issue in holding it, but I respect holding it if that's what my colleagues want.
Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I remember when this first came about, back in spring of 2019. I mean, I had the same questions that on the surface, it does seem, it's definitely a little complex. But what made sense to me was once we had it in the committee, when we had, ACCPD come to us and present the actual stats on the tow trucks capacity, how many trucks they had, what percentage of calls they answered at adequate time, and how that all went into deciding who could actually get these contracts. And then also just hearing the stories about, delays of 30, 45 minutes of streets being blocked because a tow truck was called and did not answer their call. So then as they waited, they had to go to the next line. So having issues pop up like that. And I know those numbers were, I don't mind holding this if we feel it's necessary. But if we're going, so I know those numbers were supplied to the Government Ops Committee, and that made it extremely clear why we needed this program and also why it worked. Because Mr. Hamby's right. I mean, it has worked. It's complicated, but it has worked. So if that could be, those numbers can be supplied and that data can be supplied, I think it makes it very clear why we've gone to this. And I do know that other counties do have some different ones, but I would really wonder and be interested to see if those are metro counties that have very different demands on wreckers and the number of wreckers needed and the number of trucks needed for those wreckers. Because my recollection was that most other metro counties similar to our size do have some kind of more complex system like what we're utilizing.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright?
I'd like to make a substitute motion that we pass it as presented, A, B, and C.
I second it.
It's a substitute motion from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Thornton. Commissioner Myers?
I just have a question for Manager Williams. We're renewing this contract. Can you tell me the dates from the contract? Is it July 1st to July 1st, or does the delay change when the contract would be made out for?
Give me 1 second, Commissioner Myers. I believe that it is an April to April term, if I'm not mistaken. And we've gone a little bit further than we intended with the evaluation process. As the agenda item stated, the proposals were due February the 25th. And received. And so we had hoped to have this before now. So it was intended to be an April to April term.
Well, are we still paying them? I mean, how does that work?
Sure. They're currently working on the existing contract. It was supposed to have ended April the 30th of this year. Because we were a little behind in getting this in front of you, the chief contacted all involved and they agreed to extend it to the end of May. So we are looking for some action, and supposed to be an April to April term, but I can work with the attorney on what the end one looks like, but it'll be, for that 12-month term for 2 years.
Following up on that, aren't we having a special session to vote on the pavement? I mean, could this just be delayed a week for that information that Commissioner Houle is looking for?
That is possible.
Any further input? Commissioner Houle?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, since this was on our agenda as title only until last Friday, and we get the information on Thursday night, I guess it would just be helpful to have a bit more time. A lot of why I'm digging into this is because I've spoken to vendors who are approved vendors on this list, who are part of those, 7 vendors who are approved, who are dissatisfied with this model and who have cited other models in other communities that they think are better. And I haven't been able to give them a good answer as to why we do it this way. I hear y'all. I think Commissioner Hamby's points about the feral cats is well taken, and that speaks to me to why we need a process. And so it's clear that the issues that precipitated putting in place this process back in 2004 are being addressed by this well. But what's not clear to me is whether the unequal breakdown of how many calls vendors get is a requisite part of its being effective. So if we're going through an RFP process to whittle the pool, so to speak, and we're limiting it to people who really are, showing up on time, I guess I'd also be curious to just see that data. Is that data from 2004 when people were not showing up on time, or is that data from approved vendors on our list who still don't show up on time? Because if we have vendors who are approving because they can show up on time, and we essentially have a list, and instead of, there's 7 vendors on that list, but one of them gets called 4 times as much or 5 times as much, 40% versus 8%, then that basically means they get 5 slots on the list. So why don't we just, even on those busy days, rotate through the qualified vendors who are responding? That's the part that doesn't make sense to me, and the part that I'd like to examine.
Commissioner Hamby.
Well, my comparison to the feral cats probably wasn't. It was about something else. But my point about it all is that the way this process is the RFP looks at who can handle the capacity that we're asking for them to do. The capacity for when our police need them and for when our community needs them as well. So whoever can handle that capacity is who's gotten the RFP, and they've done, this process has worked. It's worked for the government ops looked at it last year, and they reaffirmed that it works. So I think I think in the contract ended on April. So we're asking folks to continue doing some work through this part of May, and I know they're getting paid for it. But come on, y'all, they went through the process. They went through a fair process that has been outlined by this government and publicized by this government. And I haven't heard from any of the tow truck companies. And I live right around the corner from several of them. So I think moving forward is the way to go here. We keep putting these votes off to times where we don't have typical voting meetings, and that's not very transparent government, y'all. So we've got to stop doing that. I mean, we don't have voting meetings on work sessions, and we have a vote. Everybody knows the first Tuesday of the month is a voting session. So sometimes we do have these title-only things that come up, and sometimes we do have to delay things that come up. But this isn't one of them because this process works. Thank you.
Commissioner Davenport.
Yeah, just to reiterate, Tammy just got to me, sorry. But so we have most of the vendors, they're not, I would say most of all of them are not going to be happy because even the bigger ones who get 40%, they're wanting more phone calls, because it's more profit for them. So, but I just want to I don't mind holding it, but at the same time, I think this process works, and I feel that it's equitable.
All right, y'all, there's a substitute motion on the floor from Commissioner Wright, second from Commissioner Thornton to approve the agenda item as written. Clerk Spratlin, if you can do a roll call for us.
Wright,
Yes.
Denson,
Yes.
Poole,
No.
Edwards,
Yes.
Myers,
No.
Thornton,
Yes.
Hamby,
Yes.
Davenport,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Blake,
Yes.
7 yes, 3 no.
All right, motion carries. All right, we have 3 items of new business to consider under suspension of rules. I need a motion for suspension of rules from a commissioner.
So move.
Second.
All right, motion for suspension of rules from Commissioner Thornton, second from Commissioner Denson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so under new business, first item is continuation of a solicitor's grant activity for the Stop Violence Against Women program, and had information in email and in your agenda report.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any further input on this?
Mr. Mayor, there is an ordinance with this.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. I appreciate it.
An ordinance to amend the FY 2021 annual operating and capital budget for Athens-Clarke County, Georgia, so as to provide grant funding from the Georgia Criminal Justice Coordinating Council for 1 full-time position and associated expenses to support domestic violence cases and for other purposes.
Thanks, Attorney Drake. I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item 18 is a resolution ensuring voter access. This is almost identical to a resolution the Atlanta City Council approved a few weeks ago, highlighting the need to, in the wake of Senate Bill 202, which passed the Georgia Senate House and was signed by the governor, and sought to restrict some voter access, to create as many avenues as possible to retain access to the franchise. So appreciate everybody who worked on this. Any input on this item? Commissioner Denson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I appreciate a us taking this on and making this step. Obviously, right now, I think over the last year, our democracy faced some attacks, and I think it is very important for our community to know that this local government is standing to ensure that every Athenian has the access to the ballot, and the access is going to be as easy as possible. And that in the face of Senate Bill 202 passing, which puts limitations on provisional ballots, puts difficulties in getting absentee ballots sent in, that takes put some powers in place for them to be able to take over local boards of elections and many other things that could actually really attack the ability for our board of elections to do their work. But it's important that we take this stand and say that we are going to do everything we possibly can to ensure that people are informed about those changes, and that we are going to find every way that we can just to open up the ability to vote. And so this resolution calls for is for this government to support the Board of Elections and our Board of Elections staff and rolling out a voter information campaign that will help everybody know that the changes that have happened and make sure that they have every resource that they can get registered to vote or update their registration, be able to understand how absentee ballots work and provisional ballots work, and to make sure that we are expanding our polling places as much as possible, just so everybody has access to that ballot. And so really this is a resolution that supports what our Board of Elections is already doing, and also tells them and lets them know that we will ensure that they have ample resources and funding to take on those efforts to make sure that everybody has information on how to vote and any kind of campaign that we roll out to help with that. So with that, I make a motion for us to accept.
I second it with a comment.
All right, got a motion from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Thornton, and then we hear from Commissioner Link. Go ahead, Commissioner Thornton.
I've already talked to Commissioner Denson about this resolution, which I do support. I'll say it up front. I wish we would acknowledge more the great job our Board of Elections has done this past election. We come in always in a very regressive way instead of a progressive way. I think and the reason I had the conversation with Commissioner Denson, like he said, a lot of things that is written in this resolution we're already doing. And we need to recognize those folks. The Athens Black Chamber of Commerce recognized Charlotte Sosby, and we should have been a part of that for the work during COVID with the volunteers. So I do support this, but when we're putting words on paper, we need to also see if our actions in other areas is not suppressive. But I do support this resolution.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I want to thank Commissioner Denson for taking the lead on this. It's extremely important that we come out front and basically empower our Board of Elections, letting them know that this commission has their back when they come up with any measures possible to ensure that as many people in our community as possible have access to the ballot. We're in a really precarious place in our democracy. The leadership of the state of Georgia would be happy to see a government of, by, and for the people perish from this country. We need to, it's up to us to take action to save democracy. Democracy is really in peril right now. And the least we can do as a local government is ensure that the folks in our community have access to the ballot as much as we can possibly ensure that. So I'm looking forward to passing this resolution and making sure that the widespread community knows that we're here to make sure everybody can vote.
Thanks, Commissioner. Further input? Commissioner Houle.
Yeah, I just want to double down on thanking the folks who put this resolution together. And, it does certainly affirm the good work that has been done, including through a particularly difficult election year where we had a well-run election here, and affirms the work that we're expecting everyone to continue to do, both within and outside of the Board of Elections. I also appreciate that this does give some clear directives to be proactive moving forward. So I think there's a meaningful purpose to this resolution in terms of action beyond just making the clear statement that unfortunately does need to be made, which is that our elections have been free and fair and were well functioning, and therefore, it's important for us as a local body, I think, to stand by that with our official word.
Thanks, Commissioner. All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Denson, second from Commissioner Thornton. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Obviously, we go forward as fiscal agents for this government, supportive of the Board of Elections in ensuring as free and as fair elections as we can possibly muster in the next time period that we serve the public. All right, last item this evening on new business is the 16th ordinance declaring local emergency related to COVID-19. I think, Attorney Drake, you had one minor amendment to note here.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. In Section 6, it relates to extending the April 1st, 2020 and April 1st, 2021 deadlines for payment of 2020 and 2021 occupation tax and regulatory fees. We've been extending that every month, so we need to check. We failed to change the date in it. This report came to commission. We had Sunday, May 16th, 2021. That needs to be amended to read Sunday, June 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Attorney Drake. With that modification, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
If I could just read the ordinance, Mr. Mayor, an ordinance for the 16th declaration of a local state of emergency related to COVID-19 and for other purposes.
All right. Thank you, Attorney Drake. All right. Got a motion from Commissioner Hamby, second from Commissioner Houle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. I now have appointments to boards, authorities, and commissions. And I apologize. I emailed the final list in the middle of the meeting, so that's in everybody's email boxes. But I know you served on those subcommittees, so I'd entertain a motion for approval of those names.
So moved. Second.
All right, I've got a motion from Commissioner Edwards, second from Commissioner Davenport. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries by unanimous consent. And so those board authority and commission members are for Athens in Motion, Randy Halstead, for the Development Authority of the Unified Government, Bonnie Chastain, Catherine Davis, and Sabrina Huff Ashworth. For the Historic Preservation Commission, Heather Fletcher, Thomas White, and Joanna Beckman. For the Airport Authority, David Asman and Craig Westwood. For the Hearings Board, John Gasley and Michael Lord. And for the Planning Commission, Monique Sanders and Taylor Pass. So thank you to those individuals and to everybody who applied for board authority and commission positions. All right. Paging through. All right. We have two residents to provide input on items not on the agenda. First member of the public is Broderick Flanagan. So, Broderick, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
All right, we can. Thanks for joining us.
All right, perfect. Broderick Flanagan, 243 Sunset Drive, Athens, Georgia. Today I want to speak to you briefly, but I also want to acknowledge that today is the day of Jubilee in Athens-Clarke County. On this day, 1865, African Americans learned they were free through the Union soldiers. And so I just want to say, yeah, I carry that energy of the ancestors with me. But I do want to speak to equity in the budget on a broad sense. Looking at the budget through that equity lens, I think can help with some of the context that I'm going to bring to you tonight. Thinking about green jobs and working with community partners to bring in good labor politics to the forefront because without a lot of the labor that these companies have, they would not be able. We would not be able to collect taxes, and they wouldn't be able to operate to pay the taxes that we collect on them without the labor that the employees provide for these jobs. And so I spoke with some young Black men who live in the Rolling Ridge area about the potential of green jobs in green energy field. And they were just excited about those possibilities and curious to explore them. Conversely, I've also spoken to green energy companies who say they want to hire people at wages of $15 an hour or higher. And I've spoken to several commissioners on this body about these opportunities. And these wages should increase over time with the rising inflation. And so the Green Jobs Pipeline Coalition, in partnership with Economic Justice Coalition, would like to form a working group or a subcommittee in partnership with local government to explore how to bring racial and economic equity to the jobs in these new energy emerging sectors. The Green Jobs Pipeline Committee has already met again with some of you, and I'm quite frankly a little bit confused at why none of these conversations have made it into the public discourse and conversation. I was able to watch part of the Legislative Review Committee meeting back in March, and y'all were discussing updating the building code ordinance to align, I guess, with certain energy standards. And I was wondering why Commissioner Houle or Myers didn't bring up some of the conversation we had with them about green jobs and about bringing equity to that space. Even though y'all weren't talking about that specific topic in that meeting, it could have been brought up for discussion, or that's what my humble opinion leans towards. And so I've heard many local orgs, talk about their capacity. And again, it just confuses me sometimes when we talk about providing services for people without looking at some of the labor aspects that could be brought to our community. Like, if we get behind that push as a whole, I feel like we could make some tangible changes for people that live in this community that experience poverty. I don't want us to be assimilating people into some of these low wage jobs that are already here. I want us to be able to create a new paradigm shift. And if you're, don't have the stomach for that type of work or that paradigm shift, we the people need to understand why. Because if you're in the way of collective uplift for people living in poverty. And I'd rather not speculate as to why you can't support concrete anti-poverty initiatives as we're coming up on local election season. I sit and watch and engage in conversations with many of you, and many of you have verbally told me to hold you accountable and to keep these issues in your face. And if you're not responding to those conversations with tangible action items that have a material impact on people's lives who are experiencing poverty, I have to assume that you either don't value my input as a constituent or you don't want to listen. And so that is.
I appreciate it, Broderick. Thank you for coming. We've got just one more piece of public input tonight from Dennis Holmes. Mr. Holmes, are you with us tonight?
Yes. Lock my door. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm talking to my nephew. Hey, sir. My name is Dennis Holmes. I reside 1965 Winterville Road, Lot 2, Athens, Georgia. And my reason for calling is this. I want to know why I haven't heard from y'all in all this time, almost 2.5 years. I heard Ms. Thornton say a while ago that some people's voice are heard and some people's voice are not. Well, unfortunately for me, I'm one of them individuals that my voice isn't heard. Mayor Gush, Ms. Parker, you two people especially. I don't have no reason in the world to lie. I've never ever asked Clarke County for a quarter, and never will. But when I know for a fact what's been done to me and what continues to be done to me, hey, I want compensation for it. And I'll die and go wherever my Creator send me before I give up. I don't know. I'm not going to give up because this is wrong. This is wrong. What you people have done, what you people continue to allow to be done, it's wrong. And you people know it's wrong. Hey, them accusations that I brought forward to y'all, hey, none of them was a lie. Every last one of them was correct. And you people know they were correct. And it hurts me that someone can look upon me without telling me to my face and call me a lie. Because that's exactly what y'all are doing now. But I promise y'all, I don't lie. I have no reason in the world to lie to you. Everything I ever told you ain't nothing but the truth. And every last one of y'all that's sitting around that round table up there, y'all know it's true. So this is something we need to get resolved. Y'all need to get in contact with me and let me know that it's about to get resolved. And call your dogs off, the one that's running around here trying to run me about this town. Call them all, because I'm not going anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Appreciate you joining us tonight. All right. Just a couple items left. I have a few things to note for commissioners. I did want to ask Manager Williams if he could bring to the planning department evaluation of 1885 Lexington Highway as a potential planning staff designated CG property. That's a property that has been turned down for rezoning twice for multifamily purposes. And as we sometimes do, I'd like to ask staff to consider a staff-motivated rezoning to CG or other appropriate zone comparable to that. The adjacent parcels on Lexington Highway are currently CG, and I've already spoken with Commissioner Parker, in whose district this sits, along with some other commissioners as well. Do want to note that that inclusive Athens-Clarke County facilities is an item that I am assigning to government operations, parallel with the commission-defined option from earlier this evening. And finally, last but not least, I do have a site selection committee to appoint regarding the East Athens Library. Commissioner Carol Myers is going to chair that group. There's going to be a member of the SPLOST Citizen Committee to be announced that will be a member of that group. I have the chair of that body, Shannon Wilder, surveying the group for somebody who is available to that. Anise Ritter is a part of that group. Harry Sims, former commissioner, is part of that group. And Leslie Gonzalez, who's the media specialist at Hillsman Middle School, will be part of that group. So that is everything I have tonight. Manager Williams, anything from you?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Auditor Maddox.
No, sir. I don't have anything tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney Drake.
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Attorney Drake comes to us as a father-in-law tonight after his week off. So congratulations, attorney.
Thank you.
And from commissioners, we'll go ahead and begin with Commissioner Houle, and we will end with Commissioner Denson.
Oh boy. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Happy belated International Workers' Day. Happy May Day to y'all. And also happy Day of Jubilee. I do want to thank staff for, especially in the Transportation Public Works, for some of the pothole filling they've done, as well as their hard work with the Neighborhood Traffic Management Plan. I want to thank the Office of Sustainability for their many town halls they held throughout the past month, and Leisure Services for a lot of the awesome youth programming they have going this summer. Got two neighborhood events to announce. One, reiterating from last month, Westwood Hills and River Bottom Block Party, going to be Saturday, May 15th from 2 to 5 p.m. at 240 Austin Drive, which is a cul-de-sac in the middle of the Westwood Hills neighborhood. We're going to have live music, kid-friendly activities, a food truck, and a bunch of awesome information and activities from Clarke County and CCSD staff. And then, unfortunately, the thunderstorms of a couple weeks ago have caused us to have to reschedule the Stonehenge Ice Cream Social, so that will now be Saturday, June 12th from 2 to 4 p.m., but in the same location, the community center and basketball courts at 135 Alterstone Drive. Again, with the youth activities, but this time with some free ice cream. I know Commissioner Davenport's looking forward to that. And both of these have been planned in conjunction with our neighborhood leaders, Mikesha Ross and Celia Osada, School Board Member Mumby Anderson, and many others. District Attorney Deborah Gonzalez is going to be there, Chesson Community, Georgia Legal Services, etc. So I'm really excited about those. And these are going to be rain or shine events, unless we have tornado warnings or something. We're actually going to have some big tents on the ready if needed from Leisure Services. So additional shout out to Leisure Services for that support. I will be submitting a few traffic calming requests on behalf of neighborhoods that have had a lot of residents reaching out to me, Stonehenge, Westwood Hills, and Westchester. I do want to thank Broderick Flanagan for holding us accountable. Among the many things I think we can do moving forward, one thing I would ask is for a committee assignment for a living wage policy for county employees that would where we can develop a clarification around how we approach defining a living wage over time, how it goes up over time, and who it applies to, and to include in that, if possible, contractors, or if not, if we can have some kind of a work session around what we can do to improve our contracting standards with regards to some of what Mr. Flanagan was speaking to. And I would also like to ask for future work session on violence prevention programming. I know that's something that's come up a lot as we've talked about different things we can do programmatically, perhaps in the budget, but especially in light of some kind of a proliferation of drive-by shootings recently, I think we would do well to try to take a hard look at that as soon as possible. And I'll reiterate my request for a work session digging into law enforcement equipment, specifically what we've got, how much it costs, and how it's used. One last final small note for residents around the Fowler Mill Bridge area along Cleveland Road and Fowler Mill. The latest update is that bridge is going to remain closed for probably at least a year. The whole bridge deck is going to have to be replaced. And so there's a lot of staff work that needs to go into designing and rebuilding that. So we'll keep you posted on that, but we appreciate your patience in this regard. Unfortunately, the GDOT inspection indicated to us that it was in better condition than it was. And so now we're stuck where we're stuck, but we're working as quickly as we can. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Edwards.
I thank Mr. Flanagan for giving voice to the National Day of Jubilee, and was happy to hear remarks today by Fred Smith and Rick Dunn regarding the renaming of those two facilities, and look forward to creating a more robust presence regarding the renaming of those facilities to get the stories out about these famous gentlemen and all the contributions they've made. And I thank my colleagues for a good meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Myers.
Yes, it was a good meeting. Thank you for pointing that out, Commissioner Edwards. First, I got to say thank you to Mayor Gertz for appointing me to chair that site selection committee for the East Side Library. I am totally psyched and excited about that. I encourage anyone who's interested in working that or sharing their ideas to reach out to me on the East Side and sign up for my newsletter while you're at it. And really looking forward to working with the rest of the group. I'll be meeting with Mayor Gertz and Manager Williams, I guess, to find out how you move forward on that. But I'm really thrilled about that. I think that a library on the East Side is going to really help develop a sense of place. I'd also like to talk with them both about how the youth center will work with that. And as we're planning and thinking ahead, I think our focus on the library and a youth center on the East Side could really be a way to draw our youth together. Who I think it was Commissioner Houle who mentioned thinking about violence in the community. I think one of the ways we can address that is by having programs and activities for our youth that engage them and just lead them to have more fulfilling lives. So thank you for that. And I'll thank Broderick as well, Flanagan, for making us accountable. I am committed to looking at everything we do through the equity and sustainability, and that includes with the green jobs. And I will be looking into that. I think we are poised here in Athens to take advantage of green job pipeline work with federal programs that should be coming available with from Washington, with the emphasis there on green jobs. And I look forward to getting his input and the rest of the committee that he's been working with to advance that here in Athens. I think that's essential that we do. And I think that's it. I'm kind of hungry, so I'll pass it on to someone else so I can get closer to warming up my toaster oven.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Thornton.
I was hoping that I would be last sooner or later again and go back around. I liked that last end, but because that seems to be what people remember the most. But I am thankful to Broderick also. I think he said exactly what I've been feeling with certain folk. And I'm glad he didn't call my name, because I've definitely been trying to work with Broderick and the sustainability in every effort. But Mayor Gertz, I hope that I thought the meeting with the National League of Cities was a good conversation, and it's a good resource for us. I know you said you were going to send out some information, and we got some more information today, but I do hope we will pursue that to be a member, because it offers not only assistance and services to the local government, but there are things in their package that our constituents and our residents can take advantage of. So I hope that, Kelly, I don't know if we need to have a conversation, but maybe we could get that sent out and get everybody on board with that. I want to thank the Black Chamber, Athens Black Chamber of Commerce, that hosted their meeting. County Manager Blaine was on there as a guest. I think there was a lot more questions, and a core of African American people want to meet with this commission as we move forward with the American Rescue Plan funding. I thought it was a good meeting also tonight, but we still got a long way to go. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Hamby.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Could you clarify what it is that you were asking the Planning Commission to do over on Lexington Road?
It was to examine that parcel for a staff-driven rezoning to commercial general.
Which rezoning is this? I'm sorry.
That was the parcel that was turned down by the commission for the multifamily project that's immediately adjacent to the airport runway, and it had prior been turned down for another rezoning for a multifamily project.
Is there a reason why you're doing this?
Yeah, because clearly multifamily doesn't function there given its adjacency to the airport. So much like when we asked staff to look at the west of Danielsville Road parcels when we knew we weren't going to have the sewer line going up Nikichi Creek. So it's just sort of a disjunction of the zoning category and the infrastructure.
I got you. So that doesn't mean they're going to go back and put that project. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Just making sure that they're okay. Other than that, I have nothing. So I just wasn't clear on it. So thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Davenport.
May 24th at 6 p.m. on Zoom, I will be finally having that town hall that has been delayed due to workload. So May 24th at 6, unfortunately, I will not be having ice cream, but I look forward to Commissioner Poole's block party and ice cream social. And I would like to welcome Nikki Jones. You have an awesome team and a great group of people to work with. And I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Couple of announcements. This Saturday, May 8th at 1 p.m., I'll be hosting a community meeting with the residents of 4th Street Village to talk about some of their neighborhood concerns. So if you live over on 4th Street, if you live in 4th Street Village, please join us at 1 p.m. In the common green space there in the complex. as well. On the topic of voting rights, the Economic Justice Coalition is hosting a quote-unquote votercade this Saturday, meeting at Macon Funeral Home at 625 Nellie B. Avenue, starting at 2 p.m., winding its way through downtown or through Athens neighborhoods, and ending at the VFW to raise awareness about the need of passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, DC statehood, and other congressional measures that will help ensure access to equal representation through voting. So I just wanted to get the word out about that since it is taking place in District 2. Wanted to offer my congratulations to new commission member Taylor Pass. I know many members of our district are going to be very happy to have representation on the Planning Commission. And I want to thank Mr. Pass for his service on that board. I also want to let people know about budget live stream that I am hosting on Thursday, May 13th from 6 to 7 p.m. It'll be streamed live on YouTube and Facebook, and also featuring a panel of some community stakeholders weighing in on what they would like to see in the FY22 budget, which is available online now if you haven't checked it out yet. Mayor Gertz also dropped a pretty dope video summarizing a lot of its highlights. So please start reaching out to us about what you want to see in the budget, because the time is now for us to be shaping up some of those more granular elements. And I also wanted to extend my condolences to the family of Katravian Tyvon Cole, who tragically was struck down in a drive-by shooting in Barrow County on early Saturday morning. I want to echo Commissioner Shoals' ask that we have a work session on violence prevention programming that we could implement here in Athens-Clarke County. Particularly over the weekend, I had the privilege to attend a anti-gun violence event in Clark Gardens over in Commissioner Wright's district, and saw firsthand that we do have grassroots community figures that are doing the work to give youth safe spaces to gather and, instill in folks values of nonviolent conflict resolution. And I would love to see us think, particularly around as we, shape up the finer points of our FY22 budget and beyond, think about how we can empower those folks to do that work in their communities, to resource them, to, leverage the lived experiences they have to connect with young people who are at risk and help them turn it around if they are, standing on the edge of becoming involved in something that might end up taking their life, as it did take the life of Mr. Cole. So, the time is now. Hope we can get that on upcoming work session soon. But I think that is all that I have. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Link.
Yeah, I want to thank my colleagues and my constituents for their support and understanding that much of this past month I've been out of town and very distracted, taking care of my mother who was run over in a crosswalk on April the 5th. You go 2 blocks home. She suffered multiple strokes and pelvic injuries. Is just got home, transitioning to a walker. She's lost much of her speech and cognitive abilities, much of her short-term memory, improving every day, but the future is very uncertain, and she needs constant care and daily therapy. I've always been committed to pedestrian safety, and this is only reaffirms my commitment. So I'm glad to know that we passed a new neighborhood traffic management plan that makes it easier for us to implement traffic calming in neighborhoods. I want to remind folks to please go to the ACC website to take a look at the plans for bike and pedestrian safety facilities on the Barber Street corridor. Pretty transformational plan and multiple segments. And so I'm asking the public to please weigh in on that. We'll be seeing some proposals for speed bumps on Boulevard. I'll be reaching out to constituents who have requested traffic calming on their neighborhood streets who have not previously qualified for neighborhood traffic management plan. I believe there are a lot of streets that will now qualify for speed bumps and other traffic calming measures. So I'll be doing some outreach in the coming weeks. it's been a really, really, really hard month, and I do want to thank everyone for their support. I have been really distracted, but I also have a renewed commitment to these issues, and I hope that I can be allies in this quest. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Wright.
Thank you. Hey, Melissa, we're a team. We're here to cover things while you need to do your family stuff. That's very important. And I hope you get up there for Mother's Day as well.
I will.
A lot of stuff has been covered, and I guess I have a new idea, Mr. Mayor. Since the weather's getting nicer, maybe we could get in the pavilion at Sandy Creek or together outside for some of these budget things. I think as we talk about the budget, I think we should work on getting some in-person version of it, like we did I'm not asking for a retreat on top of the budget. Let me be clear. But I'm just saying the finance department usually feeds us, so that's out of their budget. They saved that last year. We could just, do a little bit of like we used to, but in a new way. If you could think about that and how we could do it, I think it would benefit all of us to be at the same place at the same time while we're talking about the budget.
I disagree. Just kidding.
Okay, Hamby.
He wants the retreat.
You already had your turn, Mr. Retreat.
I don't know what retreat means.
All right, Commissioner Denson, if you could provide some input and then make a motion to adjourn.
Well, I'll make a motion for us to adjourn after I speak so that we can retreat from this meeting. Yeah. I will say I do support that idea. I'd love to see one of our budget meetings at least be in person. I think that would be helpful. Just have a few things. One, next District 5 virtual town hall will be on May 26th at 6 p.m. and we'll be focusing on curbing evictions here in Athens. And we'll have a panel of experts talking about different ways that we could be doing that, especially as we head closer and closer to the end of that eviction moratorium. Next thing I want to do is just a few days ago, we had Transit Director Butch McDuffie's last day with Athens-Clarke County after retiring from a pretty amazing career here, running a transit system that has now won Transit System of the Year 2 times, 2 national championships. That's one more than UGA's even got. So, Athens Transit's got something to hang their hat on there. And they've done a fantastic job, and I wish Butch and his amazing mustache all the best. But I know that we have a fantastic team. I'm very excited to see Miss Pat Hale take over as interim director there. So I'm just looking forward to see what Transit's going to build off of the legacy that Butch left there. And the last thing I want to bring up is I think we've seen across the entire nation, but definitely here in Georgia, and I'm sure here in Athens too, that the number of people who are taking vaccines is going down. We've kind of hit saturated the people that were the easy gets. And now if you talk to a lot of experts, they're talking about how we're getting to that next level where people are maybe not quite as open to it, or it's not as a high priority. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get them to show up. And I think it needs to be incentivized a little bit more. So I would love to see Athens-Clarke County be a partner in some programming that we could do, possibly with the health district, other entities. In New Jersey, they have a program called Beer and a Shot that they're doing with local breweries, that if you show that you got your vaccine, you get a free pint. I would love to see us be able to work in the health department, work with Creature Comforts, Terrapin, all the fantastic breweries that we have here to have a program like that. And another idea that came to mind for me was that we've had these fantastic drive-in movie events during this pandemic, where we have people driving into a big field, sitting in their car for over an hour, watching a movie, while we could very easily be going through to hitting up every single car that's sitting in that field, giving them all vaccines. As they wait. They have to wait anyways to make sure they don't have any side effects. So I just want us to be creative here and try to find some incentives that we can get to those people, that next batch who have not got there yet, so that we can make sure that we're hitting that at least 70% threshold of adults having the vaccine. With all that said, I will end this fantastic meeting and make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Jesus.
All right, we've got a motion from Commissioner Denson. We've got a second from Commissioner Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we
wasn't
stand.
it Jesus that seconded that?
Sometimes you hear from the great beyond. All right, everybody have a great night. Thanks for your work.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.